Alrighty, let's go ahead and get going. You are completely right. By the way, Cheese, this is part 4, not part 5. I had it mixed up and it is fixed. Also, we have not really gotten that far, so part 4 is not as far, I think, as you may think here. So we've gotten past like the first mega project, the first early policies, the dinner with the assassination, and then we're still pretty early, so not too much. No element has been found. All right, I need to fix some of my screens here on OBS. I haven't done them in a long time. Game up here. So just a heads up, folks, I'm going to stream Suzerain for probably, like, I'd say 3 or 4 hours. And then after that, we're going to play some Minecraft as well, because there's some stuff I want to do today. I was reading about some of the mods that are in that mod pack, like Bewitchment and stuff, and there's just so much cool shit. Like if you build a ritual table and stuff like that, we have to build like a whole laboratory and stuff. You could do like rituals and research and summon demons to kill them for their hearts and shit like that. It looks so fun. So anyway, but Suzerain's also a fantastic game. We'll see how this goes. My voice is a lot better. The mono's mostly receded now, so I think I should be able to do audiobook story time here and be pretty fine. How's everyone doing today? What's the band rack? What's the cheese? What's the bombadil? The bird? How y'all doing? Got a Christmas card today. I don't know how. I've given like 2 people my current new address. I got a Christmas card and I have no idea. It's from an old friend of my mother's. She's really cool, actually. I have no idea how she got my address. It's like, I went to get a drink earlier today and I checked my mail and I had a Christmas card in there and I was like, how the fuck do you have my address right now? Probably talked to my dad and got it or something like that, but it was pretty funny. It's not like, you know, I'm hiding out from the government Ted Kaczynski style or anything like that, but you know, I'm very careful who I give my address to, so it's like, that's interesting. What's up, Levo? How you doing? I think your growth is bad. All right, listen here, bud. What's up, Salmon? Folks, Suzerain at the start of the game, when you begin your presidency as Anton Rain, the state of Swordland is in very bad shape, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna give some cope here. So I don't want you guys thinking that I'm bad at strategy games. We can't have that. I know what an economy is. I understand, you know, market and supply and things like the aggregate demand curve, right? So, you know, I don't want you guys thinking that I'm a complete incompetent. A partial incompetent, sure, I can take that, but no. We didn't run this into the ground. This was the neoliberal ass policies of, what's that asshole's name? The one who came before us. Where is he? Where is he? Hold up. Alfonso something. Anyway, the previous president of Swordland in this timeline, in this world before us, was Alfonso, I won't say Alfonso Davies, but that's a wing back for Bayern, the football team, so that's not correct. But the guy before us was a neoliberal. Essentially, his presidency, he was very rich already. Swordland, in the early days after the Civil War, was basically like a more or less government-controlled, centrally planned economy, in the sense that Swordland had a bunch of corporations and businesses that were either partially or fully owned by the state, right? Not full communist or Mervocanist, whatever they call it in this world, but definitely more of like a state-run kind of system for their economy, right? The previous president, Alfonso, went kind of that neoliberal Reagan-Thatcher route, right? In the sense that he sold off the assets and the businesses that the state of Swordland owned, and obviously generated some money for the government, which we had a bit of when we took over, but it just destroyed the economy. So the growth, the depression we're currently in, Swordland's in, that's from our previous president. We've been in office for like maybe a couple weeks, right? So we can't be blamed for incompetence yet. Later on, sure, but not yet. Not yet. The guy from the gas company, yeah, exactly. He literally is like the CEO of a company after he left office. Just so fucking corrupt. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get going. Let's see here. All right, we have that diplomatic mission we sent to Agnolia. We're friendly with them. We have a diplomatic mission we sent to Wellen, which, ooh, that's like basically Gaddafi, the Gaddafi state over there. And let's see what else we got going on here. Incident at President Sol's mansion. That would be Tarquin Sol, like one of like the great politicians of the past too. Is more a nationalist, but he did kind of state-run enterprise, so we'd have very mixed feelings about him. Just a reminder as well, we are doing like kind of a lefty playthrough as Anton Rain. Not like full communist, but definitely on the leftist side of things, and a little bit authoritarian, you know. A private boat nearing Tarquin Sol's mansion on Duru Island prompted the Coast Guard to fire warning shots. Despite the initial alarm, former President Tarquin Sol allowed the boat to approach for a brief conversation. The occurrence has raised questions about the security protocols near the obscure mansion. He's got his like little private island that he lives on. Weird fucker. Who's the most powerful current state in the world? You can't see on the map, but it's called Arcasia. It's basically a parallel for the United States. They are a democracy. They are hyper-capitalist. They have nuclear weapons. They have the most powerful economy in the world. You can't see them on the map. They're off the map somewhere. But they're the most powerful in the world. Followed probably by United Cortana, which is a parallel for the Soviet Union. Also, you can't see them on this map. But basically, there's the Soviet Union and America are the two big states in this timeline. Followed probably by Rumberg, which is like kind of like a Russia-China-Britain hybrid. They're probably third most powerful. They have nuclear weapons, a massive military. They're a giant state. They are very outdated, though, right? Their military is outdated. Their economy is outdated. They're a monarchy. They're very old school. But you know, it's a very Russia-like in the sense that regardless of how out of date they are, you always have to respect them for their raw resources, their raw manpower, and just the scope of the country, right? So those are the three big ones. Rumberg will be dealing with a lot more than the other two. Promising industrial potential. The mayor of Conriat, Chris Shar, reports that the decision to start the construction of the L1 high-speed railway project caused industrial investors all over the country to invest money in the regions near the city. The mayor is hopeful that the completion of the project will result in substantial economic growth in pockets. We love to see that. Nature preservation protest. Okay. We're leftists. Industrializing in the 1950s. We don't care about that. L1 construction plan started by the SSC. So we had two mega projects we could choose from. One was to upgrade basically like the road system in the north of our country, and the other one was to build like a new like high-speed rail and like expand like the rail lines between Holsord, which is our capital and our industrial hub, and Lockhaven, which is our largest port city. It's used primarily for exports and our second biggest city just in terms of size and industrial capacity. We chose the L1 railway system, which we're working on upgrading right now. And of the companies we chose to build it, obviously, we had a few choices. We chose the SSR, which is the old school government-run construction agency that's been around for a while. So we're kind of going with state-run project, which bit more expensive, bit more, intensive in terms of labor costs, but they pay their employees well, and we're going to be able to oversee it at the state level rather than putting it in the hands of private entities that we really can't trust to get done. And given this is kind of our flagship first big project with a lot of cost, right, we want to make sure it's done right. So it's kind of what we're doing here. You should invade Ruberg to fix your economy. We've got some just absolutely fantastic advice going on today in the chat, folks. Oh my gosh. What's up, Susie? You bought the game a couple hours ago. It's fantastic, and enjoy your playthrough. The Ritzia DLC is amazing too. I actually probably enjoyed my Ritzia playthrough more than my Swordland playthroughs. It's just that good, so enjoy yourself. It's a great game. All right, so just a reminder as well, we are a little bit of a little authoritarian, where we want to be at least. So in our project to basically reform the Constitution, we're looking to basically give ourselves more power. Now, in order to do that, we will need the support of the legislature, which will be difficult but doable. And then with the current system of government for Swordland, we also need the basically judicial, like the Supreme Court equivalent to back what we're doing. So the meeting we're about to do is with the more conservative, old school branch of the Supreme Court, and we're going to try and convince them of the merits of our approach towards reform, which is basically just securing more power for ourselves. Now, for our Anton Rain, I wouldn't see him as doing all this just to become a little dictator, though absolute power corrupts absolutely, of course. It's much more for him, I think, about how a lot of especially more leftist and more right politicians see government, which is that there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of bureaucracy they have to go through, which there are, And in order to get anything major done, which, you know, I think the more polarized on the left or the right, the more dramatic the reforms you want tend to be, right? So for us, this is more about securing the ability to just kind of cut through the Gordian knot of the bureaucracy of our government and get what we want done. Implement our policy at a level we could not otherwise if we have to, you know, deal with the real reality of parliamentary democracy, which is innately inefficient. Now, don't take this as me being like my own politics, like, oh, this is how it is. This is just how our Anton Rain would see things and how our approach to policy, government, and ideology is going to be, right? So kind of keep that in mind before we go. Yeah, we'll play the Aritzia DLC after the main Swordland playthrough. If you do a Swordland playthrough and then you start Aritzia game, you can import your save from Swordland, and Swordland will have like kind of, it'll be a reflection of your playstyle a little bit, which is kind of cool. So that's how we'll do it. I was going to buy this, but I decided to finally get Hellish Court instead. Never heard of that one. You're playing a Trotskyist. Nice. Time to work with the NFP and stab them in their fascist backs. Literally that. Yes. You've seen into the future, Cheese. The administration had been working day and night on the overwhelming amount of issues that were facing the country. The department sent several documents which required my signature so they could start working on the new decisions that were taken. After I signed dozens of them, I closed my eyes to relax for a moment. Another long day. Even though I really wished to leave the palace for the day, Lucian had earlier told me that the Chief Justice wanted to speak to me. We planned to meet in my office in 30 minutes. I waited for him, wondering what subject he would raise. Okay, so he actually instigated this, not us. I guess we aren't ready to really approach him, but he wants to talk, so. We're not an alcoholic in this timeline, so take a moment to relax. I stretched out my arms and looked out the window. Thousands of shimmering lights in a whole-sword skyline were mesmerizing. Suddenly I heard a knock at the door. It was Lucian. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Lucian. I'm sorry that I couldn't explain the situation to you in detail earlier, sir. The Chief Justice insisted on seeing you this evening. I do not know what he has to say, but it will be probably about the new constitution. He'll be coming shortly with Judge Mr. Gracchi to the meeting. We shouldn't take them lightly. So Gracchi is a member of the old guard, like the Chief Justice. Basically, they're really conservative. They're really in line with like Tarquin Sol, who's kind of like nationalist, like state-run nationalism, very corrupt, very old school, very militaristic. So these are guys we would not like or respect in any way, but we could potentially see using them for our own devices, essentially. If we play on their desire for the authoritarianism of Tarquin Sol and pay lip service to nationalism, we might really get them to do what we want, essentially, right? Is there a French equivalent in this game? Nothing comes to mind on that one, Cog. I was playing Suzerain a few weeks ago, but the game lied to me and it frustrated me, so I took a break. There are some things in this game that I find very frustrating. It's a very well-made game. There's just so much that's great about it. But I've also gotten frustrated playing it in the sense that, like, there's certain things I want to do, and the game will tell you, like, allude to the fact that you can do it if you go this direction, and then there's just no option for it, and then you get, like, put into something else, you know? So there's little things like that that I also agree can be frustrating. But it's a great game. Hellish Court is like a tournament fighter, but for people who are really into fencing and HEMA. Well, that actually sounds really fun. Getting into HEMA has been on my to-do list for quite a while. There's just no one around here who does it, and I don't want to drive 2.5 hours every weekend. I think he's here to test the waters. I agree. They will probably try to get you on their side. We should. There were 3 knocks at the door. Lucian checked his watch. He looked rather worried. Yeah, Lucian just loses his mind if people are, like, not on time. If they're early or late, just his, like, brain starts melting. Olivia opened the door. Chief Justice Orso Hawker and Judge Heron Gracchi entered the room. Good evening, Mr. President. It's great to see you. Evening. Welcome, Justice Gracchi and Chief Justice Hawker. Good to see you indeed. Orso gestured at the sofa in the office. May I? May I? Gotta do the voice. Let's have a seat, gentlemen. We all took our seats on 2 opposite sofas and made ourselves comfortable. How are your first couple of months, Mr. President? And I hope you're faring well. It's very busy, but I'm doing good. It will only get busier. Yet I think you're doing a good job so far. Considering all that's happened around us with the shootings here in the palace and the soldiers on our border, he let out a deep sigh. It is a troubling time. We appreciate your concerns. So, you probably know why we are here. You're here to pray me. Please enlighten us, Mr. Hawker. You know you're working on a new constitution. The Supreme Court does not approve of this. With all due respect, the Constitution needs to be updated, sir. I'm sure you're well aware of the public demand and our circumstances. And the public demanded to give more powers to the president? Spare me the lecture. I know you have different ideas. Even if your proposal passes the Assembly, I'll make sure it will not pass the Supreme Court. That much is clear. Fucking asshole. It's not even like he's trying to protect the Constitution and the people. He's just a corrupt piece of shit. Go on, Mr. Hawker. I'm sure we can figure something. We can't? We can. This is when he says what he wants. If you decide to give us a listen. Mr. President, you seem to be only partially informed about the current situation. Please let us explain the reasons of our stance. Please explain. We are protecting the Constitution because it works, Mr. President. It is efficient, and it gives you the authority to lead the nation with swift decisions. Swordland has more important problems and threats we should face right now instead of nitpicking about some paragraphs of the Constitution. We have a potential war within our borders. Orso signaled Heron with his hand to let him speak and said, Mr. President, I know you are a busy man, so I'll make this quick. We all know the Swordist security forces found stashes of Rumbergian weaponry in the hideouts of the Blutish separatists. KA-74s are roaming inside Swordland at the moment. As much as Rumberg poses a direct threat, now it's clear that they're intervening in our country and weaponizing our minorities against us. It's not unprecedented to think that the Bloods will start the terror again with their new toys. Not to mention the fights that broke out between the left and right wing after the shooting at a Bernard circus. Communists are rising with the support of United Cortana. The chaos is imminent for Swordland. And sadly, we don't know this administration is taking the necessary precautions. You said you will not focus on military during your term. Under current circumstances, that could not be tolerated at any cost. Your judiciary thinks it has sway over the presidency. I don't like that. Well, internally we'd want to go tell them to fuck themselves. They have no business exerting their authority over us. But they do have us, you know, kind of in a bad position, given they can't overrule what we want to do with the Constitution. Now, if our constitutional reforms fail, it's not end of the world. That's not like our biggest goal. It would just be nice to have a bit more authority to get what we want done. So it's not like we are so beholden to wanting to get it done that we'll let them walk all over us. But we want to negotiate, and we want to get that passed if we can. But if the cost is too high, we certainly wouldn't do it. I did promise that, but the circumstances have changed. I am relieved to hear that. But regardless, are you also aware that the armed Blutish separatists have direct connections to the Workers' Party of Bludia? Everybody knows that. You know what that means. Do you remember the vote of the Workers' Party in the last election? What is this all about? The only reason they're not in the assembly is because of the electoral threshold. They have gotten quite big. They are clearly getting outside help, and their connections to the paramilitary Blutish force cannot be denied. And all of a sudden, the reformists are trying to decrease the electoral threshold so the Blutish separatists can be legitimized in the assembly to achieve their aims of independence. I will not, okay, we do agree with this. I will not allow that to happen. We won't. We're not letting that happen. Therefore, we need to work together. Ugh. This would be an alliance of pure convenience and distrust and dislike, but it would be very useful to work with Hawker and Garachi. That being said, the old guard are fucking dangerous, and we know they are. So it's This is another dangerous deal we could be making here, much like the one we made with the media giant. Like, the game told me in very unambiguous terms that I had to support for a particular vote, but then it came time the vote failed. I did some looking guides and it was 100% a bug. That fucking sucks, dude. I had that happen with my last single player playthrough, where I tried to do a reformist playthrough. That was really annoying. They aren't asking for a lot, but that does make me wonder what their real long-term goal is. Exactly. We've been in politics long enough to know they don't just want what they're saying. They're going to want more. And political deals made when someone has leverage are very similar to blackmail in many ways, in the sense that you need to understand that they're not going to settle with whatever they ask for. They're going to ask for more later. And unless you get leverage over them or are willing to break your deal or get what you want already, that's very dangerous, right? So we understand that we agree with some of what they're saying. We don't hate the Bloods, like we're not a nationalist type ourselves, but we sure as fuck will not let them get independence, right? That is something we would unequivocally not allow for. But we also know that Garachi and Hawker are more like on the national side of things. For them, it's not a matter of the independence, it's deeper than that, right? So this is a complicated deal. And we know that they'll ask for more later and they'll want more. And if we say no to them, we're gonna have a real problem. Don't take their deal. It's all good, I managed to go into files and fix it. Nice. Yeah, this game is very simple in terms of its code. But I wish the only issues with the Blutish terrorists in Rumberg. Here we go. The reformists suggest changes that would bring the communists who are backed by United Cortana into the assembly. Do you see the pattern yet? And what is your suggestion? We should take the necessary measures against the communist and Blutish plot, as well as increasing our military budget against a possible conflict with Rumberg. I do agree with that. We will have to increase our military budget. Our Anton Rain sure as fuck didn't want or plan to do that when he came into office, but the escalating situation of Rumberg is dangerous. We served in the military. We may have studied economics. We may be a political kind of guy, but we're no fool. We understand the danger of Rumberg, right? So we will increase our military spending a little bit. I hate to do it. It's a waste, but this is not we're not a utopianist. We understand the harsh reality of our situation. Also, maybe a good way to get your power that you desire, I can maybe try and backstab Hawker later. If we take the deal, we will absolutely fucking backstab them and try and pack the court later, so. And of course, not fall into the traps of the reformists by listening to their demands. They're clearly plotting to weaken the president and our whole administration in order to exploit the situation. That we do agree with too, actually. We do agree with them on some things. Which brings us to some very important information that we have. It's definitely something you need to hear and it can change absolutely everything. With all due respect, Mr. President, I think this is getting slightly ridiculous. He's right. Let the Chief Justice talk, Lucian. Of course, sir. The person in question is Mr. Franz Richter himself. That's the leader of the, progressive party. The People's Freedom and Justice Party. The leader of the reformists. We have enough information to infer that he has ties with Arcasia. Arcasia is aggressively growing their influence around the world, and now we have Mr. Richter coming up with these ridiculous demands for a new constitution amidst the chaotic period in Swordland. All the pieces seem to fit perfectly. That is why the Supreme Court will be doing what it takes to stop the reforms and preserve the Constitution. How would you know about Mr. Richter has ties to Arcasia? Mr. Galade, we all know he has been in Arcasia many times, because it has been documented. But what would you think if he has been taking hidden flights to the country? He was hiding his flights to Arcasia? He was. He has been spotted in a hotel in Arcasia last year where they held the Conference on Economic Development of Volatile Regions. Right around the time he started to influence the masses into believing our Constitution is the reason for everything bad. His trip was not documented. If it's true, that's a big deal, actually. nor was he an official guest to the conference. We believe that he had a meeting with President Walker behind closed doors. That's the president of Arcasia. He's kind of like a Nixon figure. Not quite as Nixon-y, but kind of Nixon-y. I also have a couple of more photos of him that were taken. Where the fuck are they getting this shit? Why are the Supreme Court's justices overseeing internal spying on political figures in our country? That's a red flag if I've ever fucking seen one. We can get a vote about declaring an emergency once we get there. I think there is a way to do that. Will there be a poll on taking it? Perhaps. He also attended another event in Lesbia last week. The Arcasian Minister of Foreign Affairs was there too. That's fucking sketchy if they're telling the truth. If this is true, this is big. I told you so, Mr. President. Many Solis were already following his lead for some time, Mr. President. I cannot give away their identities, but I can give you the evidence. He handed me a small file. It contained an official document from the Swordfish border guard with highlighted dates that showed no trace of Franz Richter's name. There were clear photos of him that were taken in the conference in Arcasia, as well as remarks by lesbian and Arcasian citizens who claimed to have seen him with Arcasian businessmen around the same dates. There was also an official transcript of one of his speeches where he claimed to be in Benfi on the dates of the conference in Arcasia where he was spotted. But the thing is, like, we need to confirm this shit. We can't just take their word for him. Lucian skimmed through the documents with skepticism, which slowly turned into surprise. These seem to be real. Of course they're real, Mr. Gulade. These seem to suggest that Arcasia is behind the reformists. Their demands will only benefit Arcasia. They want us to have a weaker administration while we face these threats. This is clearly a plot against Swordland. I bet Runeberg is part of the plan too. This cannot be a coincidence that they're weaponizing our minorities against us around the same time. Now, Runeberg working with Arcasia is absolutely absurd, so that's not true. Now you understand the reasons for our current stance, and also our suspicion about your advisors, who clearly have not given you this vital information. Lucian gave him a sharp look. We appreciate the information, Mr. Hawker, but I advise against jumping to conclusions right away. We still need to check the information. Yep. There's not much to think about or check. This is clearly an emergency. In such causes, the Constitution gives the President the right to use his emergency powers. If we work together, you can be sure that the Supreme Court will not block your declaration of emergency. Now that's an interesting concept. That's a very interesting concept. I'll give you guys the poll. Here, for the folks watching on YouTube, I'm going to do a poll for basically the 3 options on these games. If you guys say in chat what you voted for in the YouTube chat, I'll add your vote to the votes on Twitch. No double dipping. There's no way I can check. I'm going to be honest, but if you're, please do not double vote. A deal we can refuse with Walker. I'll do a quick little poll. It'll be around a minute long, folks. Now, if we work with him, we could use the emergency declaration to get our reforms and other things passed, and really use that to get the power we need to get what we want passed, and then just immediately backstab Hawker. Maybe even like just pack the Supreme Court and get what we want done. This could be the path to getting like the position we want to make our reforms, right? It would give us a lot of power if we abuse this. But it is a little dangerous because we don't know how much influence Hawker and the Old Guard faction have, right? So we could try and backstab them and get God ourselves, right? So it's very dangerous, but this is a kind of a radical route to a lot of power for us, right? He was a public prosecutor during the Kingdom of Swordland. Jesus Christ, old as hell. Work with Hawker. Really? Wow. I think the Arcassian president is a werewolf with a name like Dwight. God damn it. Work with Hawker it is. Let's talk about how we can work together. Of course, we cannot wait for the processes of assembly to take care of these issues. You must exercise your presidential powers for a fast and effective solution. Which means you might need to suspend parts of the Constitution, like where this is going, to give more authority to our security forces to deal with these issues. We must officially investigate Mr. Richter as well. You can devise a strong security decree if you can base it on the Article 57 and 58, which gives the president the right to suspend parts of the Constitution to deal with national security threats. He's definitely not a senile old man. He's quick as fuck. We have to be careful. Hawker is very dangerous. You can just get rid of him later. In theory, yes. Remember, now, if we don't do as they say, we will get impeached. I believe they have the power to do that. Yes, they do, which is why we have to thread the eye of the needle here, right? We need to use the emergency powers to get what we want done, try and keep them on our side until we can essentially just pack the courts or destroy the power of Hawker. I think the way that we're going to do that is try and do like a basically double investigation. We're going to investigate Richter and those guys like they want, and then behind closed doors, we need to set up a private investigation. I think there's a way to do this actually, to investigate Hawker and the Old Guard. So basically, we can kill two birds with one stone optimally. If we can kill the power of the NFP and then kill the power of the Old Guard, kind of in a light of the Night of the Long Knives type situation, we can take total power for ourselves. In theory. You can bypass the assembly in such a situation. The only thing you need is the Supreme Court to allow the emergency to be declared, and you have our word on that. Sir, I think this is going a bit too far. We shouldn't escalate things so fast. Mr. President, why don't we talk in private? Only two of us. This fucking guy. We can devise a plan together. I know we can use the Constitution to our advantage. It would be very effective if Mr. Glade and Mr. Garazzi leave the room before we discuss it. No, we need a witness. Sir, I advise against it. I'd like your idea, Mr. Hawker, but I'd rather plan it together. Glad to hear we're on the same page, Mr. President. We'll have to insist on a private talk. Lucian? Sir, I can leave. I'm not here to block your cooperation with anyone. Then please do so, Mr. Galade. No witnesses, folks. That's dangerous as fuck. That is dangerous. We know that's dangerous. We're playing with fire now. Don't pick two, it locks you out. Oh shit, a little late here, I think. Or is it, do you mean for the one that's coming up here? So, Mr. President, if you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately and focus on the real threats, I will guarantee you. You know what? Just to kind of, for the roleplay. I'm imagining right now that Hawker, like when we like Lucian and the Grazzi leaves, you know, before, Hawker, like, you know, he was a very sharp guy, but he was kind of, you know, definitely playing into his age and acting a bit kind of older and a little senile, you know. But as soon as Lucian and Grazzi's gone, his tone is going to change, and he's going to basically, like, sound 10 years younger and just way quicker. I've met guys like that before, older guys in politics, who will really kind of play into, like, acting like they're a little less there than they are. And then at certain times, you'll kind of see that facade go away. I've seen it before. It's pretty wild, actually. People in politics find a lot of really interesting strategies to appear not quite what they are, and it's smart. If you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately and focus on the real threats, I will guarantee you we will manage the reformists together. You must eliminate these threats, both internal and external. An emergency act can help you do that. We cannot trust anyone in the administration either. That's some abuser talk right there. You can't trust anyone but me, only I will treat you right. Do you ever hear anything along those lines from anyone in your life, no matter how much you like them? Don't trust that person. Doesn't matter how hot or how much you love them. If you ever hear something like this in your life, be very careful. Puts his hand on your knee, Mr. President. Not quite like that. Like Master Pycelle. Yeah, that's a good comparison, Zodi. There's a deleted scene of Game of... Let me find that and play it, actually, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, and that's an amazing scene a lot of people haven't seen in Game of Thrones. Let me play that real quick on YouTube. It was not included in the main series, which is sad. What's up, Gray? How are you doing? Hope you're doing well today. Pycelle, Tywin, deleted scene. It's so fucking good. It wasn't well acted, which is why it didn't make the cut, but if they'd redone the dialogue and made it a little bit better, it would have been so fantastic.
My apologies, my lord, for interrupting your time of leisure.
It's not well acted, but it could have been really good.
I want to discuss a few matters with
you. What's up, Jean-Jean?
In advance of today's council meeting. I often find that the council environment is less than hospitable to the principles of good governance.
You are no longer on the council by official decree of the hand of the king.
Your son did conspire to keep me from my rightful place in the chamber, as well as affronting my dignity in other ways.
In my absence, my son was acting hand.
But you are the hand now, my lord.
But I have not revoked the acting hand's decree.
Oh, my lord, I must say that this is most surprising to
perhaps he had it right. Perhaps in the black cells you truly found your level.
Oh, my lord, you cannot mean that.
Stop it. Am I the only one to see through this performance? Is it possible that so many could be so stupid for so long? Huh?
There are times when I have trouble believing it myself.
And why do you bother?
So many flowers.
People do this shit, man. It's real.
Each wanting to grow the tallest, bloom the brightest. And one by one, sooner or later, they all get plucked. I don't want to be the tallest or the brightest. I only want to remain in the garden until my time comes to return to the dirt.
Well, thank you for your poetic candor.
A little bit of advice for anyone out there. Not even just in politics, but in any aspect of your life where you're dealing with people who I don't want to say are your enemies, but you're competing with them, or they are a threat to you, whether that's at work, whether that's in something that you do in your personal life. You're going to be in situations in your life at certain points, right, where there are people who will not be acting in your best interests and you will need to deal with. And a very important and useful thing to learn in life is to learn how to adapt your behavior to appear different than you are. Optimally, appear less than you are. If you're dealing with people who are dangerous, who will act against you, or who you compete with, it is very wise to appear less capable than you are. Because it is always a large advantage for your enemies, or for just anyone who you may need to act against, who will act against you, to view you as less than you are. Because if someone underestimates you and you go against them in any way, you will have a massive advantage over them. It doesn't need to be dramatic. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to act like an imbecile. But find little ways to make yourself appear a little incompetent or a little less capable than you are. Don't let people know your true capacity. Unless they're a very close friend you trust utterly, or a family member or something like that. If they are in your own confidences as a person, this doesn't apply. I think it's always good to treat a friendship and someone you trust and show them who you are completely. And if ever they go against you, then that's unfortunate. But for anyone who you interact with and you know that you may have to go against or deal with in some manner, appear less than you are. It's very useful and it's not as hard as you think. Just be conscious of it. Be conscious of them. Don't assume the best of people. Don't assume the worst either. But make sure that they do not know what you're capable of. And then if they ever go against you or you have to compete with them in for something important, you will have a very large advantage over them. This is a really good lesson to learn, folks. It does any aspect of your life. Whether that's a job or whether that's, you're just dealing with someone in your casual everyday life. But especially, I think, a job, right? Because that's where you will have to deal with some competition depending on where you work. Don't show people what you're capable of. Never show people what you're capable of.
But I still don't see why I should let you back on
And pick
my
your fights.
council.
The King's counsel, my lord.
I could have you return to the dirt this afternoon if you like.
Since the time I convinced the Mad King to open his gates to you, I have served the interests of the House of Lannister unfailingly.
Yeah,
True.
yet you still betrayed my son's trust.
Because I felt he was acting against those interests, yes.
What have I done to earn this?
Can't believe they didn't
touching
include this scene in the
loyalty?
fucking show. It would have
You
been
have
one of the
built the
best
strongest
scenes.
house.
I feel like anything
What
Tywin in
happens
was
when
great.
We are no longer the strongest house.
By that time, I will be rotting beneath the floor of the Sept of Baelor. If you deem my years of service worthy of that honor.
Well, in the future, you will serve me more actively, as befits a man of your vigor.
Yes, my lord.
Take those to the kitchen. I'll have them for supper.
Tywin,
Yes, my lord.
incredible character, incredibly acted by Charles Dance. Just absolutely incredible. Anyway, yeah, so that was a very interesting video. One of the best scene not included in Game of Thrones right there. And there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of truth in that, like I said. Like Qyburn's Little Birds, 48 Laws of Power. Yeah, I think there's a section of that in there too. 48 Laws of Power is an interesting book. It has a lot of good lessons, but it's I gotta put this. It's useful in life to learn the hard lessons and the reality of especially dealing with other people, and to learn the tricks you have to deal with them, especially people who will act against you, or who you'll have to compete with, because you will deal with those in your life. And you can take that approach of just like pure virtue and morality, where you do not use any sort of underhanded tactics against them, and that's fair, but you will be at a disadvantage and you will be harmed due to that. I think the wise person, I'm going to give a very weird comparison here. I think it's a lot of similarity to example in Paradox multiplayer. Bear with me for a moment. The best sort of Paradox multiplayer player understands the depths of the game. They know how to abuse the system. They know little tricks that can make them much more a better of a player than everyone else. Yet, they have the maturity and wisdom to use it sparingly. They don't abuse it unless they have to against people who abuse it against others or themselves. You would never know that they're an ultra good metagame player if you play casually with them, unless they use it against someone who does it as well, right? That's a good comparison. And I think life is very similar to that. It's important to understand the psychology and the tricks and the different methods of dealing with people, and things like the 48 Laws of Power, The Art of War, On War, 100 other books that will teach you a lot, but not always virtuous things. It's important to understand that, but it's also important to not abuse that. Now, if you're a sociopath or a psychopath and you have no qualms about using and abusing that against other people, it is what it is. But most of us, I think, have a degree of morality, and we place value in moral dealings with other people, especially those we love and like, and things of that nature. So as you proceed in life, do not shy away and do not be afraid to learn less than moral tactics to deal with other people and the world as you traverse it. But remember that they are potent, and you can do a lot of harm with them against people who perhaps may not deserve it. And it is important to balance moral virtue with the methods one needs to deal with life. If that makes sense, I hope I communicated that well. So it's interesting. If you trust someone while in politics, you might be a little naive, to be honest. Now, that very much depends, Graham. I think dealing with other people, the people you deal in politics are a very unique breed. And if you're dealing with other people who aren't in your camp, so to speak, of course, never trust anyone to a degree. But if like they're your own people, You know, I think that's where trust can definitely come into play. There's a lot of very, very loyal staffers to, you know, any level of political figures out there who, you know, would fall on the sword for them, right? There are out there. If they're in your camp, it's a little bit different. But if they're, you know, outside, even within your own party or something, yeah, that's very true. Pycelle was too much of a Lannister love boy. Yeah, he simped a little bit, didn't he? Incredible character, incredible actor, but I want to kill him genuinely. That's how you know it's amazing acting, right? If you fucking hate a character or love a character, the actor's done a good job, right? Fun fact, Chief Justice Hawker's theory actually believes that the Runeberg Mad Monarchists and BFF rebels pursued extreme theocracy. Really? UC-funded hardline communists are actually collaborating to overthrow Swordlands. Are they? I didn't know that. Wow. Tywin's strategy for politics was to be a powerhouse and scary. Yup. He is the definition of the prince that Machiavelli wrote about. I am 99% sure that George R.R. Martin wrote Tywin Lannister as like the prince from Machiavelli, right? And he is a perfect epitome of that sort of character, right? So he actually has to follow through on his threats because he did in the past. Yep. If you make threats and you don't back them up, they're useless. Sometimes, every once in a while, you got to make a point. And if people push you far enough, you got to make an example out of them. I love Paradox multiplayer roleplay, but you find there isn't a whole lot of good ones. No, there aren't. You got a guy that's like, I want all of Europe, no, and then pulls out 32 metas and crushes in a month. Yeah, that's the other side. People who just abuse their power and their knowledge. They deserve no respect. The Prince is one too? Yes, it is. The Power Strategy and Seduction series of books are okay, but they're like an entire library of sources condensed far too little space. Yeah, they're too condensed. They're not explained properly. And I don't think Robert Greene balances morality properly with the things he talks about. Which is why I don't really like him as a writer. His books are useful. They're interesting. They have a lot of insights, but he's writing like a fucking sociopath. I made Suzerain memes, but I don't understand the lore. Uh-oh. It's like the proper use of the dark side of the Force for all my nerds out there. Yeah, exactly. Gray Force users, the most based. They understand morality and virtue, but they balance that. They're willing to do that's I think Gray Force users are like a really good example of like how one should seek to be in life. You need to understand the harsh reality of the world. You need to be willing to do bad things. That's just the reality of it. Most of the time. Every once in a while, you'll need to do an immoral deed for moral reasons. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm no expert on anything, but like, I do believe that. There are times you have to do those sorts of things. But if you balance it, if it's done right, I think that's the best way to approach the world. I never thought about comparing Tywin Lannister to Caesar Borgia, but it's super interesting. Yeah, no, they're very similar. Very similar. George R.R. Martin has talked a lot about how he writes from a historical standpoint. And you see it in the books and the lore and the inspiration for the places, but you also see it a lot in the characters. George R.R. Martin is one of the best political writers I have ever seen. His books are grim, dark fantasy, but he excels, and I think one of the reasons that his characters are so brought to life and so compelling is because he understands history and politics in their historical context. And a lot of his characters have clear inspiration from either political writers and political ethos or certain characters in history. Tywin Lannister, I don't think is a direct comparison to Caesar Borgia. I think Tywin Lannister is simply an embodiment of Machiavelli's ideal prince. He embodies all the values at the level that Machiavelli never could do himself, but envisioned for the prince. And I think George R.R. Martin, who's a very intelligent man and a very good writer, was able to make, in a fictional context, the prince in a manner I have never seen done better. In a book, in media, in anything. He almost did it better than Machiavelli, I think. Well, at least creatively. Because Tywin Lannister is not only the embodiment of that concept, he is an incredibly deep character and incredibly well written. So, anyway, we'll keep playing Suzerain, but a little sidetrack there. That's what Genghis Khan did. He used brutality so people knew when he made a threat, he could back it up. Brutality for brutality's sake has a negative effect because it just makes people so desperate that the fear is no longer useful. Desperation will lead to them not following you or not doing what you want. Fear is a tool. It's a dangerous one. And I think Machiavelli was right when he said it is better to be feared than loved. But I don't think you can say that statement in a vacuum and leave it there. Fear is better than love in order to get what you want done. But the price to use fear over love is dangerous. You have to be a very specific, exceptional, intelligent, capable type of person to approach life from that standpoint. If you're in politics, you're a monarch, a prince, a leader of any sort, the best route, as Machiavelli said, is to be feared than loved. But the part he doesn't say, you can't say, because no one of noble birth, certainly in those times, they would be insulted, let alone even consider such a concept. But if you want to be realistic about it, you have to ask yourself, am I capable enough to do that? If you are not a very smart person or a very capable one, you should seek to be loved rather than feared. Because people will tolerate a fool. You'll not be able to rule as well. You'll not be able to get as much done as you want. You are loved versus feared. But it is a route where your life will be easier. Your chances of an early grave will be lower. And you're able to do it without the capabilities that others might have. If you want to be feared rather than loved, you will be able to get much more done in your life. You will be able to rule from a much greater standpoint, and your horizons will be broadened. But you need to be honest with yourself if you are capable enough and have the mental fortitude to take that path. If you're a sociopath or a psychopath, not an issue. If you have morals, or you believe in an afterlife and a god, you're approaching a very dangerous and a very winding road that you need to be very careful on. And, as I said, you need to be capable enough to take that path. And I think many people in history who read The Prince or simply approached that naturally don't have that honest conversation or don't understand that. There's many who take the feared rather than loved path and are not capable enough to do it, or they're just unlucky and they meet an early grave. But if done right, you get a Tywin Lannister. Right? So. When you use fear as a tool, you have to be sure to balance it. And you have to have the wisdom to use it properly. Alright. Back to Suzerain. You must eliminate these threats, both internal and external. An emergency act can help you do that. We cannot trust anyone in the administration either. How can we fight these threats? How can we fight against these threats with an emergency act? Decree. You have the power to give more authority to the police with their search warrants, suspicion-based arrests, detention without trials, as well as banning that threaten nation citizens from entering Swordland. We have to make all of this is done under us, though, and not the Supreme Court. If all of this is done directly under our own hand, this would be incredibly useful to us. But if it is under someone else's authority, this is a dagger against our back. According to Article 58, if the public security and order is seriously disturbed or endangered within the Republic of Swordland, the President of Swordland may modify and suspend parts of the Constitution subject to confirmation by the Supreme Court to determine the validity of the declaration of a state of emergency. Which parts of the Constitution can we modify or suspend? It is kind of a gray area. The Constitution states that no state shall, in the case of a national emergency, modify or suspend the rights of the freedom defined in Article 100 of the Constitution unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit or delay. Dangerous. What's up, Jarhead? How are you? Anyone told you, Hammurabi, that you're an incredible speaker? I could listen to you rant or talk for hours. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I would hope I'm able to speak a little bit gooder, since I do stream. Ooh. We are really playing with fire here. Such imminent danger. That can definitely be argued to be the case. Exactly. It can definitely be argued that we are under such imminent danger because of Rumburg. I mean, he's right. We are, right? We're no fool. We would understand that Rumburg is not just posturing. Very similar to Putin, right? In the sense that it is a declining power that has historically been a land-based military power and has gained its status through conquest, not through any other method of creating power as a nation. They're outdated, they're old, they can't compete in the modern era, and they're desperate. So, well, not desperate perhaps, but they need a way to kind of revitalize themselves, and war is one of those options, as we've seen in our own world in the last few years with Russia and Ukraine, which was brought about by the fact that Russia was declining, Putin's grip on power was slipping, and the one thing that will fix both of those problems, at least for the short term if successful, is war and conquest. Not to mention United Cortana's support for a communist coup in Swordsland, as well as Fritz Richter's involvement in Arcasia, which is definitely connected to all of these problems. And of course, it's up to the Supreme Court to decide, so that is not a problem. Can't the Assembly simply revoke it? According to the Constitution, only the President and the Grand National Assembly can revoke the emergency after it is declared. That is correct. Oh, that's big. The Supreme Court can start it, but they don't get to end it. We do. We can probably still be impeached, though. But that's an easier problem to solve. However, as long as your party is in line, they will never have a majority to revoke it immediately. So no, they cannot simply revoke it. How can we effectively silence the opposition? We may need increased surveillance on our political rivals to find out about their connections and plots. Bringing an unlimited detention would allow you to arrest people as necessary, such as Mr. Richter. Jesus Christ, this dude is just full mask off right now. They're clawing for power. Yeah, they are. I made Swordsland memes without knowledge of the lore again. We'll go check it in a second. Can you get the Supreme Court to start it and then fuck with what they want? Anyone who's played Suzerain more than I have, if there's a new one watching right now, if we go this path, are we able to like basically investigate and like kick out the old guard and pack the Supreme Court, or are we kind of stuck with them and they kind of get to dictate things? Does anyone know? I'll give it a second if anyone wants to answer while I look at the comments real quick. So Hawker, I'm once again asking you to fund the military. No blue independence to left the right. Blood, but yes. And that is very true. Get elected, begin power consolidation, make a deal with the right, get screwed by the right. I do fear that's how this will go. You are kind of fucked. Cheese, is there any pathway for us to not get fucked? I don't mind if we get screwed over a little bit, but in the end, can we kind of like take power and like get rid of them? Or are we locked out of that? Because I don't want to go down this pathway if that's not an option. I don't mind if we go down this and fail at that and get fucked over, but I at least want the option for us to kind of like get what we want. And if there's not an option, I don't really want to do it. I'm gonna take a look at the wiki actually. With this path, you can't assassinate Hawker, so do what they say or get impeached. To what I know, no, that's fine. I don't mind a little spoilers here, because again, this is one of those games you kind of have to go look and see if you have an option, because like you can go down a path in this game and think that there's a really obvious way like it will go that you want, and then the game just won't give you that option, right? So. Bear with me one moment. Yep, there's no option to get rid of them. You have to do what they say forever. So we're not going to do this. That's unfortunate. It'd be really fun if they added a path for this where like you could do this, and I agree it should be hard to do, but basically you can do like a counter investigation on Hawker and the old guard and basically like backstab them. It's kind of the autocratic, right? Actually, there's not another option here. Way. That's a shame. Okay, that's unfortunate. So we're gonna say no. It seems you can kill Hawker through the method you mentioned, but you can't if you use the emergency powers run. Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame. Well, this might be going a bit too far. I hope we're not locked in at this point, though, to do the autosave or something. I disagree. You already know about the coup plots in foreign backed terrorists in Sordland. A lot of these issues overlap with the reformist agenda of creating a weaker constitution. I suspect Franz Richter is involved in many of the organizations. He may even be working together with Roomberg, and they really do pose an existential threat to Sordland. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Hawker, but I won't be going ahead with this. We're gonna back out. I thought you wanted to plan our move. I thought I wanted it too. Instead, I will be proceeding with reforms. Is this all a joke to you? It seems you are also part of the conspiracy after all. Fuck, oh, maybe he is a little wild, a little unhinged here, Jesus. There's no conspiracy but yours, Mr. Hawker. Good God. I hope Sordland's future is not this bleak. Good luck with your reforms, Mr. President. You made a big mistake. He quickly gets off the couch and moves towards the door. Don't walk out on me, Mr. Hawk. You already did that, Mr. President. Have a good evening. He left the room. That was eventful. No old guard path for us, I guess. Alright, I think we've done everything. Let's see. Yes, we have. Yep, the Supreme Court will try and fuck us up. So, we have to pack the courts. Or try to, at least. We're protesting. Communist books burned in Boren. Young swords and NFP flags burned. Brutish resistance in sanctuaries. Noble reports a lack of hospitals. Recession hits farmers again. 16% of wheat in Lockhaven is rotting in barns due to lack of buyers. Yeah, our export situation really is bad. We need to work on that. God damn it. We have to talk with our son. Legislative debate on the repeal of the EPA. The Grand National Assembly was the stage of a contentious debate today over the proposed repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932. Arguments both for and against the repeal were put forth, with Franz Richter of the PFJP and the USP reformist wing leader Albin Klaben leading the faction advocating for the repeal. They argued that such a move would foster economic growth and increase foreign investment. However, the United Swordland Party, which is our party, and the National Front Party under the leadership of Gloria Tori and Casario Kibner, respectively, defended the act vehemently, citing the need for Swordland to protect its strategic industries from foreign control. The final decision now hinges on the vote, which will be headed in the following months. We want to like keep it as it is, if not probably increase it, because we don't want our company is just being bought out by foreign Arcassian interests. All right, we have to go speak with our fucking deadbeat son. God damn it. I love parenting. Don't you guys love parenting? It was a Saturday afternoon, my first break from work in what felt like years, and the weather couldn't have been more perfect. Trying to keep my mind off of the upheaval sparked in the circus assassination, I lit the backyard grill. We're grilling, Dad. Fuck yeah. Monica and Deanna were out shopping for craft supplies, and I'd given the staff the day off. It was just myself and Frank at home. I wasn't sure how he felt about me at the moment, but I did know how he felt about barbecued ribs. Our cook had left some marinating in the refrigerator. Sure enough, as soon as Frank glimpsed the grill and the meat, he stepped outside to join me. That's some good writing right there. The writer has a child, that's for sure. Well, look who came out of his room. Don't get any ideas, Dad. I'm only here for the ribs. And that's my boy, is how bribery works. Ah, what a great example you're setting. I didn't say bribery was good, did I? You can't always make the moral choice and turn these delicious ribs down. Frank smiled for a second. I turned to tend to the fire. Here, let me try. He grabbed the fan and started quickly waving it over the coals. The fire roared to life. He turned to look at me with a grin on his face as if he was expecting praise. He's not 12, so I don't know about that. Say nothing. And Frank's smile faded. We both stared into the fire. I realized my throat was parched. There was a 6-pack of beer in the kitchen. Why don't you bring us a couple beers, son? He looked at me in disbelief. You mean I can? But Mom told me. He stopped himself, quickly ran inside and returned with 2 beers. We cracked them open and clinked bottles and gazed out at the city skyline. Don't give your kids lots of alcohol, but I think one of the best things my father actually did was to like let me drink alcohol like in my like late teens if I asked. He didn't give me a lot, but he gave me a little bit because he was smart and knew I wouldn't like it, which I didn't. So by the time I actually started partying and drinking alcohol, I did not glorify it. To me, alcohol was gross, but like, you know, sometimes I wanted to party and get drunk, but it wasn't like I wanted it a lot, you know, which is smart. So what we're doing with our son here. For a moment, my thoughts flashed back to my childhood and my relationship with my own father. Unless alcoholism runs in your family, then don't do that. If you're at Taurus, for example. My father was a poor man who struggled to provide for us with his meager income. He put me to work on the farm long before I was Frank's age, and even then we couldn't always make ends meet. Yet, we were always close as a family. Now that I was the president, I knew Frank would never face the same hardships I had. I couldn't deny that I felt a little bit jealous. Dad, can I ask you something? Go on. It's just, I feel like there's so much you've been hiding from me, about your past and about what's going on right now. Like at dinner that night after the ball, you told me everything was under control, but it wasn't, was it? I know what's happening in the 20s. We learned about it in school. Now, with the protests and riots, is it going to be the same thing? Is there going to be a civil war in Swordland? Oof, fuck. Asking the hard questions, isn't he? The Tauruses are never going to beat the alcohols and allegations, nor should they. I hope not. We're going to be honest. He let out a sigh. But what was it like back then? Uncle Peter said the two of you went through a lot. I'm not a kid anymore, you can tell me. Before I could gather my thoughts, the familiar images started flashing before my eyes. Images of soldiers advancing towards me and my friends, weapons drawn. Of people I knew, friends and neighbors, being dragged through the streets and murdered in alleyways. And that little girl's face. Those were dark times. It seems like it. But you're nearly a grown man. We can talk about it. Rick leaned forward in his chair, his eyes wide. Fuck it. All right, kid. You want the truth? Tell Frank about the coup of 1927. was set time to tell him about the coup. I was barely older than you are now. Studying economics at the Lock Haven Business School, I was a freshman, excited and young. I had just left the classroom to go back home as I heard the sound of multiple vehicles approaching the campus gates. As I got closer, I realized that they were military camouflage trucks and tanks carrying hundreds of soldiers. The same soldiers that were supposed to protect Swordland citizens pointed their guns at us. They immediately took control of the facilities. One of my friends asked what was going on and was arrested immediately. More people got angry and gathered in protest. Frank kept listening, a shocked look on his face. Kids these days, they just have no idea what it used to be like back in my day. Yeah, well, he wants to know, and he is 17 now. I was there with the protesters as they declared martial law. We marched towards them. They threatened to use force, but we stood our ground. So they started beating anyone they saw, including me. Physical wounds took a few weeks to heal, but the mental scars have stayed with me to this day. Fuck, dude. We could have talked about it and not like mentally scarred our son here. Jesus. I don't know if we need to talk about the mental scars. To be fair, this is 1950 and we don't have access to therapy, so I guess this is how we deal with it. I was still one of the lucky ones. Some of my friends were shot. Many were arrested. I can't forget the screams of to this day. Dude, go to therapy. Fuck. The game's writing is fantastic though, isn't it? Shit. Frank leaned back in his chair and his shoulders slumped heavily. I think that's enough. That's enough for today. It's okay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you about it. I know I don't understand how easy my life is sometimes. A little bit of self-reflection from a 17-year-old. That's magic right there. Frank hesitated, then moved over to where I was sitting and gave me an awkward pat on the back. Fuck. One more thing, though. I know that you joined the Red Youth back then. Do you mind if I ask why? I had to survive somehow in that environment, and I made a choice. Frank raised his eyebrows, his curiosity is still not satisfied, but sensing my reluctance to go on, he simply nodded. Sorry for bombarding you with questions. I know I complain sometimes, but my problems are nothing compared to what you went through. That's true, but a really important thing to learn in life, everybody. Watching, this is a good lesson I've learned, and I think it's hard to internalize what's important to learn. There is always, you're gonna have hard times in your life, and you will always meet and know of people who have suffered much more worse things than you. But suffering is always relative. So never let the worst problems of other people reduce your own problems. Not like don't blow them out of proportion. Like if you tripped and act like it's the end of the world. No, but like we all go through hard things in life. It's important to remember that your suffering is always relative and it's always valid. So, he's having self-reflection, but didn't quite make the good connection he needs to there. You're damn right. Your generation will never understand. Fuck. We could give the boomer line there. I'm here to listen to them no matter what they are. Before Frank could say anything, I heard the door open and unlock. Deanna and Monica's voices and the sound of rustling shopping bags filled the house. I should get some studying done before dinner, but thanks for this, Dad. I mean it. Frank went and dashed upstairs, back to his goddamn room, smoking pot proudly and listening to rock music. Kids these days. Number 3 is a great response for the deadbeat father. Really, though. I made my own response for it. You're damn wrong. Your generation will understand. I took a long sip from my beer, looking at the city and now setting sun. I hoped that talking to Frank about my past had been the right decision. Part of me felt as if it was some sort of burden that had been lifted. Because he hasn't gone to therapy, ladies and gentlemen. But I had the same nightmares again that night. What? The darkness still follows me. Low industrial output, god damn it. The mayor of Morn has reported that their industrial output numbers this year are 12% lower than last year. They're requesting additional support to improve their industrial capacity towards machinery and personnel to combat the downward trend. With the construction of several new factories in Morna, the mayor stated his belief that an economic upturn in the city is still possible if the government invests successfully. Prisoners riot in Antel prison. Yesterday around 11 a.m., a prison riot started in Ward C of the Antel Rock prison, which was eventually suppressed. Ward C is generally used for keeping political prisoners, and the riot started when a warden was killed by a brutish political prisoner. Oh boy. 4 guards and 21 prisoners died. 134 were injured. That's gonna be a problem. the Narbo. Many members of the USP, led by Albin Calvin and the reformist wing of the party, clarified their demands for the government in the party Congress. For the upcoming constitutional reform, Calvin stated that without ministry reforms, they won't be able to stand behind a new reform package. Traitor. Traitor! The SSC's project manager for the L1 railway reported the project has been progressing well, and they have already started laying down the foundations of the ground retaining walls, bridges, and tracks. Project supervisors from the government confirmed the report, saying that most of the preliminary work has already been done by the SSC. We made the right choice. However, the government officials added that there are a couple of delays related to transportation of construction materials, which are not included in the SSC report. That is a little concerning. The ATO, which is NATO, pledges financial and military aid to Agnolia, that's the northern neighbor we have. In an empathetic display of international solidarity, the Arcassian Treaty Organization has committed significant financial capital and military aid to Agnolia, located in the heart of eastern Maricopa, a region rife with geopolitical complexities. Agnolia stands at the crossroads of economic challenges and potential security threats from Roomberg and Volksland. This aid package is designed to enhance Agnolia's economic stability and bolster its military capacities, fortifying it against possible CSP advances and further Roomberg hostilities. As part of the ATO's larger goal to secure its capitalist allies against the spread of socialism, this assistance displays the ATO's commitment to supporting its member nations in their time of need. Ritzia advocates for an energy partnership. The Ritzian Oil and Gas has extended a co-investment proposal to Sordla's ambitious Gasom energy venture. King Rumus emphasizes the bilateral benefits of such cooperation and its potential in bolstering the region's energy security. He also stressed that the collaborative venture could form the bedrock of a stronger economic alliance further binding our nations. Useful, but very complicated political situation. You're president, you don't get PTSD. Grow up. True. Walk it off. Alrighty. Our trip to Narble. Should be interesting. I was traveling to the snow-covered city of Narble in the Nargis region. This is a Blood-heavy region, by the way. It's also a bordering region to Wellen and to Roomberg, so complicated. Region of the Rural Development Forum organized to the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. The mountainous city of Narble had gritty tones to it. It was mostly regarded as one of the poor cities in Swordland, as people were hardy and wary. Even after the discovery of natural resources in the area, years of neglect by the central government were apparent on the buildings and the general infrastructure. Natural resources, namely gas and oil, were now under the control of Gasom, which elevated the corporation to a place of power. My task in this forum was mainly symbolic. Fake smiles and handshakes with oil barons, meeting with local politicians, but most importantly of all, making sure that Narble did not feel like it was forgotten by the government, despite the fact that it definitely is. The scenery so far, however, was a reflection of Narble's neglect. Main roads to the city were not maintained well. There were many bumps and empty, discolored spots in the asphalt. Navigating and swerving to avoid the inconveniences, our motorcade finally started nearing the city. As my discomfort with the bumpy ride was apparent to him, Serge rolled down the partitioned window. "We'll be arriving in Hotel West in a few minutes, sir." "Thank you for letting me know." "Anytime. It's my duty." After a moment, Serge started to smile under his mustache. "How's life, Serge?" "Sir, I just want to say it has been great these last 2 months. We're 2 months into our presidency. As you know, my wife Susan recently gave birth to our son, sir. And now my daughter just started a very good high school in Wolfsword. Get ready, Serge, because life's about to become a lot busier." "Oh, I know, sir. It already is very busy. My daughter is a handful. Thankfully, my work time allows me to spend some time with my family, except on these distant trips. I'm very lucky to have this job." "How are your children, sir, if I may ask?" "They're both doing just fine, going through different phases in life." "I can understand that completely, sir." He glanced towards the back. "I had some troubles communicating with Erica as she grew up, but we both found a lot in common by going to plays." "You're a good father, Serge." "I tried my best, sir. I was unlucky. I never had a connection with my father. Goddamn, we're doing, like, All our talks are people just with a clear lack of therapy today in this game, apparently. It's fun. I never had a connection with my father. He was absent from our life, and I just can't have the same situation with my children. Good for him. Being a president meant that I had to be away from my home most of the time. I wondered if Frank also thought of me as an absent father. Yes, absolutely. We are, but yeah, kind of is what it is when you're in political life like that. Could that be the reason behind his attitude? Serge continued after a moment of silence. Have I told you, sir? We named my son Jorg. Jorg? The doctors said he's very healthy, and thankfully, so is my wife. Tell me about Susan. What kind of person is she? She has a good heart. Her family comes from Sarna, so they're a little more traditional. She's beautiful, of course. That's a flex. But what I really admire is her selflessness. Based fucking Surge, Jesus Christ. Selflessness is a respectable trait to have. It should be mutual. That is what matters most. Surge is dropping truth bombs right now. Surge sighed. I've already started thinking about their university education, especially Erica. I want to send her to a good private school, but with the current state of the economy, it's going to be hard for us. No. We'll fix the economy, one way or another. If anyone can, that's you, Mr. President. Get someone in your life who looks at you the way that Serge looks at the president. The car hit a major pothole and a bump which lifted us up from our seats for a second. You okay? Yes, sir. I hope the car is fine too. The motorcade began approaching the hotel. The Hotel West was supposedly the best hotel in Narbil. The large 25-story main building was undoubtedly one of the taller and more expensive buildings in the city. It towered over the nearby slums and had been a target for protests when it was first built. A crowd was gathered in front of the hotel, with the welcoming committee at its center. As we approached the red-carpeted entrance, I could see the mayor of Narbil and his top aides. Serge got out of the car and opened the door. He bowed his head respectfully and gestured towards the entrance. Thank you. Have a good day, Mr. President. Therapy? You mean things those queers do? I don't need that shit. Yeah, therapy's kind of fucking gay, man. Anyways, when I was 20, I watched my best friend die. Oh boy. As soon as I left the vehicle, the fresh air of Narbil filled my lungs. Almost immediately, everyone present in the crowd flocked over to me with an excessive display of courtesy, smiles and handshakes, while I donned the mask of a politician. A mask that I was very used to. PFJP report on reforms. Franz Richter, leader of the PFJP, recently outlined their demands in the reform package. He declared that without the implementation of term limits and limited decrees, it would be very difficult in his party to stand behind reform package. Unless we fucking blackmail him, of course. Which we're absolutely going to do. Young Sword suspected in a terror attack. 17 people killed. Political violence is getting very bad in our country right now. I arrived at the meeting room for my talk with Ciara and Pascal. Before beginning, I took a moment to appreciate the view from the balcony. The mountains of Narbil were completely covered with snow. Memes to encourage therapy. And then the tank wouldn't stop even as it was barreling towards the group of orphans. Hey Frank, can you pass me another beer? Goddamn. Yeah, pretty much. While I was mesmerized by the scenery, Pascal Binewal walked up to me. He's an author and Swedish government official who serves at the Ministry of Health, Social Affairs, and Labor. And he's a member of our party. My Ministry of Health was, ironically, somewhat portly, having gained a few pounds since his breakthrough as a best-selling writer, but his authority on social affairs could not be questioned. Such a spectacular view. Sierra Walda, the Minister of Education, joined us on the balcony, dressed in a sky blue pantsuit. Her preference for trousers over dressers had made her the subject of much palace gossip. Remember, we're in a super sexist era for this country. But it didn't seem to bother her in the slightest. Ultra-based CR. Spectacular indeed, but if you look at the opposite direction, you will see that Seoul's decades of neglect did to this city. This is why I feel bad when I don't play like a reformist democratic playthrough. You let down like the good people in your government, and of course your wife and children. Most of the people living in Narbil are workers, farmers, and their wives and children. They're breaking their backs for close to no pay, all thanks to greedy corporations. Sierra Sanders Walda over here, Jesus. I don't think that is how Pascal looks so friendly. Is Rain an alcoholic? Rain equals Taurus confirmed. Nah, our boy's not an alcoholic. The only thing he's drunk on is power. My intention is to help the working class. I'm glad we see eye to eye on this issue. If you look past the view, you can see the real problems. Real problems like poverty. Pascal nodded gravely. This was a subject he knew quite a bit about himself. His best-known books were about the plight of Sordland's less fortunate, drawing from his own past growing up in squalor. Well put, Mrs. Walda. I don't need to tell you that my own experiences with poverty, and you've been through similar hardships yourself, Mr. President. Feels like the cards are stacked against you. Exactly. Feels as if there's no way out. You don't have to have been the most poor to sympathize with the plight of the impoverished, much as you don't have to have been born a woman to recognize Sorla's need for parity among sexes. She'd love our wife, and our wife would love her. Parity among the sexes shouldn't be our first priority. Look at how much high-ranking female politicians our country has. Boy, okay. One of those. Appearances can be deceiving, Pascal. Her voice sounded bitter. Think about how Lilius Graff got to her position. I don't necessarily believe the rumors about her in Seoul, but she never could have risen so high if she didn't parrot his cause. Wait, was Lilius Graff Tarquin Soul's like side piece? Is that lore? Checks out. Lilius Graff seems like exactly the type of woman Tarquin Soul would simp over. Gloria Tori is an accident that the first female assembly speaker is such a staunch conservative. And then there's Alfonso's habit of promoting women to prominent positions that gives Sordland a progressive sheen while accompanying nothing in reality. That's a very real thing in history right there. Very, very real. While women in places like Narmal are denied the opportunity to advance, the government can use a handful of female politicians from wealthy families, myself included, to pretend their only obstacle to success is their lack of initiative. She's not wrong. And she's ranting, okay. Meanwhile, those of us who don't use our clout to help powerful men stay in power are denigrated as angry spinsters. True. I ask you, Mr. President, does anyone care that your strategist, Mr. Galate, doesn't have a wife? Let's not start talking about Lucian's sexuality. Girl, chill, all right? We don't need to get into this, all right? Lucian is best boy, and we don't need to bully him or out him. Leave Lucian out of this. All right, Ciara, you've made your point. As I was saying, isn't it about time Holsor addressed the country's real issues? Rather than bowing to the wishes of the hawks and fearmongers in the establishment and diverting it more resources to the military and law enforcement? You're not wrong, but it's not that simple either. And I'm not just saying that as like the we'll do it down the line kind of thing. We're in a very precarious position here. Our welfare, healthcare, and education systems have been decaying since the recession. Sordland's poor communities are losing hope. Hopelessness and a lack of opportunities can drive people to extreme solutions. True. Shout out to my boy Luigi. We're seeing increased crime, domestic violence, and yes, rising inequality between men and women. Okay. These issues must be tackled more from different directions. We need to engage holistically. We're going to give her the politician response here. I'm planning to help by using an increased budget to improve quality of healthcare. If you get it, Blood. That could be useful, but we need to be doing a lot more. Education has similar issues. Now, here it is. Remember when I said in the first stream about watching for when people talk a lot? You know, there's that saying in life that anything anyone says to you before the word but is not true or useless, right? And it's a similar situation with anyone who is talking to you when you have the ability to give them something or specifically more resources. Anything they say before talking about the fact that whatever they are controlling or whatever they're advocating for needs more of something isn't all pointless and useless, but it's the foreplay to the main thing that they're trying to get out of you, right? There's another subject I want to mention. I've been working on improving the rights of workers in our country and have proposed to draft a bill that is currently being reviewed by our party. Mr. Calavin has already backed me and given his support, Swordland has fallen behind most countries on this subject, and it is my responsibility to ensure that's not the case. I agree. We need to improve standards for our workers. Exactly. Swordland must provide for its own people to move forward. It also is a matter of life and death. Every decade we hear of some horrific accident due to employers disregarding their workers' safety. So, will you back the bill when it arrives on your desk, Mr. President? I'd be very interested in supporting it once it is finished. We need to see the wording on it, don't we? Do you cut your hair or is it pulled back? It is pulled back, my man. What's up with that? I am relieved to hear that. He smiled. It's getting a little cold out here. Shall we continue this discussion indoors? We headed back inside. The meeting room was already prepared for state business. Small gifts for each of us had been placed on the table by the municipality. We took our seats. We'll start with a health overview, Pascal. Gotta shut down water a little bit here. She's a little comfortable. Disappointing. Tough bitch. As you wish, Mr. President. Swordland has a free healthcare system, except for a few private hospitals operating under it. Most of the populace receives adequate treatment. Health issues primarily appear in rural areas due to a lack of quality services. I am doing my best to ensure that citizens of all ages receive the best healthcare they can. I also personally want to solve our high infant and maternal mortality problem. Fuck, Jesus Christ, yeah. That would be a priority, wouldn't it? What's the life expectancy and mortality rates? Our life expectancy, oh Jesus, is 65 years. The infant mortality rate is a worrying 121 per thousand births. That's really bad. While our maternal mortality rate is 5 per thousand. That's really fucking bad as well. 26 days, Jesus, what the? 3 years, 5 months. I've been streaming for almost 4 years now. Wow. Time fucking flies, man. I assure you that we are doing everything we can to serve mothers and their newborns. Those numbers are saddening. I agree. We must do what we can. I made some memes for Bloods and Curds. I'll look at the memes in a little bit here. Great, you've only been following for 8 months. Seems like you've been around forever. And again, my sense of time in the last year has been completely destroyed. So, thank you, Pascal. Your in-depth briefing is much appreciated. I want to hear about the education system. With pleasure. British education is free, but we have been a very outdated system that I want to reform. The other important issue is the lack of access to education in rural areas, especially for young girls. Your administration has the power to solve both problems. See, this is where I'm going to feel really awful, because these are things like, as a person, I care about deeply, but the situation as well as the path we're playing in this game will result in us not prioritizing this shit, so I'm going to feel really bad. I was around longer, but my account lost access. Oh, that makes sense. What happened with Hawker? I left him make fish tacos. We turned him down. What is the literacy rate of Swordland? The literacy is... what? The literacy rate of Swordland is 80%. Jesus. I mean, I guess we are in the 1950s in like a post-Civil War state, so I guess that makes sense, but that's so bad, dude. Anything less than like 98% is awful. But I guess I'm speaking from a modern context. 1950s is a bit different. This is a very good indicator of future growth, but it needs to be increased. It's also far lower among girls than boys. Yup. If I remember correctly, the most illiterate areas are Bergia and Agland. That is correct. Although Lockhaven skews the statistics for the largest region, which also has a vast number of illiterate citizens. This underlines my point about the lack of access to education. If you cut your hair, you would look like the guy in the bottom left corner of the screen. That is how being bald works, yes. University spam? This is not Victoria 3, I'm afraid. 80%, what is this? 3, right, man? Fucking hell. That's like your nation in Vic 3 in like 1880. Thank you, Ciara. I can fill in the breaks from here. I believe that is everything. Ciara stood up and moved towards the window. She took a deep breath. We listen to women, though, so it's fine. What is it, Ciara? Look at this impoverished city. She's so base, though. This is the problem with runs like this. I've done one before, and I felt bad. The two people I respect most in our government, besides Lucian, is Sierra Walda and Morgna, our Justice Secretary. This playthrough, both of them are going to get pissed off at us, and I'm going to feel bad, even though they're fictional people. That's the problem. It's like that meme about like when you like have been wanting to start an evil playthrough in a game and you finally do it and you get like an hour in and you can't keep going because you feel bad. That's the vibe here. Ugh. This is not just about Sol or even Alfonso's failings. This decay in Swordland's forgotten regions has been going on for many decades due to structural corruption, which is fueled by capitalism. Girl, you right. Let's not get into an ideological debate. We all agree here. We need to focus on the issues. One cannot be separated from the other, Mr. Rain. The issues stem from the ideology. We get it, though. Like, you're right, but we get it. Sierra sat down inside. One way or another, we needed to change Swordland. Greed and unchecked capitalism will not magically provide for the people. Tell me more. My plans require an increase in the government budget. I aim to solve the problems we highlighted with the allocated money. By building schools in these less fortunate rural areas and through fundamental changes to the education system, I will unlock the potential of our children, boys and girls alike. You're based. Yeah, all the base people don't like you in this round. I know, that's what sucks. Improving the situation in rural areas is indeed a good idea. It's an investment in the future of Swordland. Imagine unlocking the full untapped potential of our youth. You right. The knowledge and wealth they will generate. You right. That's still true to this day. Especially in America. Wouldn't promotion of private education create additional funds? I've heard about this really cool system they have in Arcassia. It's called school vouchers. And there's this thing called charter schools. We should really look into those. I'm definitely not paid by Arcassia. No, we're not going to fund these, unfortunately. Not for this playthrough. Yes, but at what cost? I'm not a supporter of the private sector in education. At the end of the day, they are focused on profits first. Yeah, why the fuck would you privatize one of the most important fundamental things you need to give to your children? What could possibly go wrong? What are you working towards, Pascal? I personally want to improve the low quality of healthcare in the rural areas. So I created direct plans to increase the salary of doctors and to upgrade the equipment of the hospitals. I can do more of an increased budget. There it is. Additionally, a privatization plan to promote private investments in the healthcare system could allocate extra funds. Yup. Exactly. It would directly diminish our depressingly high infant and maternal mortality situation. Besides, such a push would have access to economic benefits. I do hope to create competition, increase the quality of healthcare, but privatization. I'm gonna run to the bathroom really quick. Is this an authoritarian leftist run? Yes. tea here so I don't burn the house down. I thought we were more dim left. Nope. I think the concept for our Anton Reign was essentially we would kind of almost be a little bit like Leninist, right? The equivalent of Leninism, in the sense that our Anton Reign would be like a hardcore leftist socialist, bordering on communist, more socialist, I think is kind of what we gave him ideologically. So he'd be Leninist in the sense that his ideology is that you need to basically create like bit of an authoritarian vanguard party, right, to implement the major reforms that you need, and then later, optimally, it would go into like a democratic form, right? So, is this a new run? It's the same one I'd been doing, Cog, if you've seen the other ones. I'm gonna upload the videos on YouTube for the other ones, by the way, the earlier ones. Most of them are uploaded, I just haven't made the thumbnails and done the full upload yet. So I think for our Anton Reign, like, we do like democracy, we do like public enfranchisement, of course, but we'd be a little bit elitist, we'd be a little bit Leninist, in the sense that we think that we need to have authoritarian power to push through the reforms necessary, and then we need to provide quality education and services in order to have educated workers and citizens who can actually be responsible enough to maintain a more democratic form of leftism, right? So that's how our Anton Reign approaches. But you must realize that prioritizing our healthcare system would increase the price of treatment and make access worse for the average citizen. Yup. Besides, it wouldn't fit into the planned economy President Reign has decided to promote. My expectation from our government is that we understand and focus on the needs of the people. We are elected representatives of the people, and we will prioritize their needs. 9 days, Jesus. I appreciate how much time y'all have spent watching my streams, folks. I'm glad you enjoy them. That's reassuring to hear. I don't want to sound cynical, but almost all governments keep making the same promises. She right again. This is why I like her character, she a real one. We must show we are different through our actions. Did we cover all the necessary subjects? One more thing, I wish to raise my concern about your scheduling meeting with the GASM chairman and former president, Mr. Alfonso. By negotiating with Alfonso and his company, you have an opportunity to secure better labor conditions for blue-collar GASM employees. This could be a triumph for all of Narble. Yes, but we're prioritizing Swordland, not Narbel, unfortunately. Greg calling me out. You're right. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You gotta do it sometimes. What is there to negotiate, Pascal? The standards for GASM workers are already at rock bottom. President Reign can and must demand better. Nevertheless, it's worth acknowledging the corporation's significant contributions to job creation in Narble and other poverty-stricken regions. Persuading the chairman to make concessions might prove to be a formidable task. I know how slippery Alfonso can be. Bringing this up with him will indeed be a challenge. Try a diplomatic approach. Deep down, I believe he wants what is best for workers as well. That's not true. The rich don't see us, as I think many of us imagine they do. Not all, but many. This matter is close to my heart. I would personally be grateful if you were able to resolve the concern raised by Katerina Horton and her fellow labor representative. It would be difficult to imagine a CEO like Alfonso giving benefits to the worker without him personally gaining from it. In this world, nothing is truly free. I wouldn't anticipate anything less. We must be cautious with these seemingly generous offers. They usually come with a hidden cost that further tips the scales in favor of the privileged few. Thank you for your input, Ciara, but I will stress to President Reign how important it is that the door of dialogue remains open. Ideology should never get in the way of bringing about tangible, lasting change. Yeah, he is right. Sad reality of politics. An element of pragmatism is necessary for achieving anything, without radical action, of course. I'm skeptical that these discussions with Gaslam will lead to meaningful change. We've seen him empty promises before. We shall keep you no longer. Thank you both for the discussions. I do hope you won't repeat the same mistakes again and again. Have a good day, Mr. President. The ministers left and I prepared to leave the other official business in the city. The Gaslam meeting was just one of the many events I was scheduled to attend over the next few days. As I made my way out, the weather was noticeably cold, but it didn't keep a group of USC supporters from coming out to cheer us on the streets. By looking at the citizens' attire, I was easy to understand the current state of Narbel. Some people were wearing clothes a few sizes too large. Some kids did not even have shoes. Fuck, that's awful. Yet there was hope in their eyes. Fuck. They were excited to see the president in their city. I feel bad. There's nothing worse than people having hope in you and failing to do what they want. Young Swords member found decapitated. Jesus fucking Christ. They are really getting wild out there, aren't they? This is turning into the Purge movie. Morbel mine disaster. A coal mine has collapsed in Morbel. Emergency response teams were dispatched immediately. Due to the sheer size of the disaster, additional manpower and supplies were requested from nearby cities. The death toll is 82 and counting. Fuck, man. CSP leaders discuss Helgeland at Helm Summit. In a pivotal meeting convened in Helm, leaders of the CSP have gathered to discuss the intricate issues of Helgeland's sovereignty. It's the island between Agnolia and Vogsland over there, I think. The Assembly recalled the 1920s, Agnolian annexation of the island during Vogsland's revolution, underscoring their commitment to addressing past missteps and ensure a future that respects the rights and aspirations of the island's inhabitants. The summit was also a testament to the CSP's adept navigation in an ever-evolving geopolitical landscape marked by the capitalist influence of the ATO. Emphasizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation, CSP leaders reiterated their determination to avoid escalation in an already delicate situation. Moreover, they confirmed the existence of preparing contingency plans, ensuring that Vogsland, as a key member of the CSP, would receive an unwavering support if the need arises. The summit concluded on a note of shared resolve, CSP leaders collectively affirming their dedication to preserving peace and stability. Yeah, so the island's going to become an issue. That makes our dealings with Agnolia and Vogsland way more complicated now, because we do not want to get pulled into a military issue here. Because although Agnolia is like very much in their Arcassian sphere, Vogsland is very much in the sea, like the United Cortana sphere. So, and we're trying to remain neutral. So this is a very complicated situation. Hamu, 129,880 of the amount of minutes you have watched your stream is 90 days. You have streamed 90 days in total. To be honest, I thought it would be more. Yeah. Eminon's watched for 67,000 minutes. Eminon, you fucking beast. I don't think you watched it anymore, though. Eminon watched me my whole 4 days. I hope he's doing well. Arcassia builds a military base in Lesbia. President Walker visited Lesbia last week to engage in talks with Prime Minister Alvarez concerning the establishment of Arcassian military bases within Lesbia. Following the conclusion of the discussions, an agreement was reached between the two leaders regarding a significant military defense investment in Lesbia. As part of the agreement, a large military base will be constructed on Ravnos Island. The base will be equipped with Arcassian radar and anti-air systems for enhanced security. Additionally, Arcassia plans to deploy a dozen M3 ballistic missiles. The base is expected to accommodate approximately 200 strategic bombers and jet fighters, along with established 20,000 Arcassian soldiers. So kind of like a little Okinawa base there. Though Lesbia is much more militaristic, capitalist, and open towards military expansion than Japan was historically, obviously. CPS and LUS strike against Gasson. Great. That's exactly when we're visiting too, of course. Labor strike in Gasson. Blue-collar workers of Gasson and Narmo have initiated a labor strike. This industrial action follows disagreements over wages, working conditions, and workers' rights. The strike has resulted in a temporary disruption to Gasson's operation. I might change the music, because this one's very repetitive here. Repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932 failed. Good. A proposed repeal of the Energy Act 1932, that's like what percentage of our companies, or specifically our energy companies, foreign interests can control. It's kind of like about energy security, resulting in this defeat. Despite strong advocacy from the reformer factions of the PFJP, of course, Richter's for it, and beyond, including within the USP under Albin Calvin, the majority of the assembly, led by the USP and NFP, the Nationalists, voted against repeal 179 to 71. Jesus. Consequently, the Energy Protection Act of 1932 remains in force, maintaining the status quo of foreign ownership restrictions on energy companies in Swordland. Good. Good. Casario Keebner, leader of the NFP, has announced today that the NFP is completely against any threshold reform. He especially emphasized that this would lead to unwanted elements entering the assembly, and that he is outright against any chances to the 10% threshold that'll allow like more like radical and less popular groups to get seats in the assembly. A lot of like representative democracies use systems that's kind of like a winner-take-all system, right? So it means small parties don't get really any seats in the legislature, or any at all, like America, for example. There are other forms of system like past the post, and then like ranked choice voting and things like that that allow for essentially like more third parties, and usually more radical, but just third parties in general to get access and have better chances of success. Like publicly funded elections, and then like more democratic voting systems tend to enfranchise things like that. The Workers' Rights Acts of 1954, proposed by Albin Calvin and supported by the Minister of Health Pascal Benawol, is being prepared for the first draft review. Voices from the labor union show strong signs of support. Ooh. All right, I'll give my voice a second here. I've been audiobooking for 2 hours. Alrighty. I made a meme creating the Emnon's 8-day sacrifice. Alright, go look at the memes. Jesus fucking Christ. Or stop drinking a dog 25 accurate. Therapy, emotionally scarring your son. Parenting for the last 5,000 years of human history in a nutshell right here, ladies and gentlemen. Bloods, Kurds. You right. They're the same picture. Yeah, you right. Therapy, alcohol. Accurate. Alcohol House Taurus. Hamu feminism. University spin. God damn it. After a series of intense meetings with Sierra and Pascal, I decided to take a much-needed rest to recharge. In the capital, Lucian and Peter devoted themselves to challenging tasks of the united pro-centralization factions behind the drafting of a new constitution. Meanwhile, Gus Manger had invited me to visit the Gassom headquarters in Narbel. It was situated in Ornoble, a neighborhood of the city's outskirts. Next to it was the Diminoy Gas Reserve, a prominent natural gas source consisting of 4 large fields. As our motorcade made its way through the Ornoble district, I noted the neighborhood's lack or state of disrepair. The roads were bumpy and marked by potholes, while the buildings surrounding us appeared run down and dilapidated. The community had apparently endured a prolonged period of neglect. listen to my timer go off for boiling water. I like completely forgot about it. My ADHD riddled brain right there. Did you know that South Korea's impeached their president, acting president? Next, they're going to impeach everyone in the cabinet. I didn't know about the cabinet. I know that they impeached the president, though. We came to a halt at the entrance gates of the facility. A sizable mural depicting the Gasom logo had been painted on a nearby wall. Adjacent to the mural, a group of individuals wearing blue work vests. So yeah, there's mass protests outside Gasom, and they're striking right now. So it's a very heated moment. Obviously planned with our visit, right? They're trying to force us to do something, which we would be sympathetic to, but we wouldn't like that we're being basically kind of like forced like this into this situation. But you know, as I guess a leftist ourselves, we understand that, you know, striking is how you demand change, right? So complicated situation as usual. Surge skillfully parked the car, bringing our journey to a smooth and elegant conclusion. Gus greeted us warmly as we stepped out of the vehicle. Good day, President Rain. Welcome to Gasom's Narbel operations. I trust Ministers Walda and Binawal didn't overwhelm you with their demands. Always telling them what they want to hear. It's a relief to have a break from all that, even if just for a little while. Peter Vector isn't the only one you can have fun with, you know? Jokes aside, you are the president, so do what you want. Except for running the country into the ground, please. Mr. President, I've been brainstorming a little something. The Gruni Rural Investment Plan, immediately advocating for his bullshit, of course. I reckon it's got the potential to bring new life into rural communities outside of Gruni. We could consider a few things. For starters, we could give the farming business a boost with some subsidies. Isn't our grain currently like rotting in storage in Lock Haven because we can't export it? Why are we like giving more money to farmers? Or we could steer towards modernizing existing farms with machinery and tech, which would take away jobs but make them more efficient. But again, if we don't have anyone to export it to, it's fucking useless. Or here's another thought. I suppose it does decrease our own food prices, but it's not efficient. We could pour resources into developing crop breeds tailor-made from Gruni conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Swordland. Because the farmers want money? Correct. They impeached the president and the acting president. Two different people. Ew. Since only a court can remove the president. That's correct, which 3 judges threw in the hat this year, so the court has only 6 out of the 9 needed members. Didn't read about that. That's super interesting. I really have to sit down and read about the South Korean situation properly. I understand like the highlights of it, but I don't understand the depth of it. We keep talking as he guided me into the Gasom building. Mr. President, I get the appeal of the green bill that's been making the rounds in the assembly. The environmental bill. But I'm telling you, if we put the brakes on that and funnel those funds into the Green plan instead, we can make some real strides without spooking any potential investors. I don't want to do the green bill, but I also don't want to do this rural investment plan. It sounds nice in theory. We'd love to improve the lives of farmers, but a lot of our people are in cities now. We're in an industrial country, and farming should not be our priority. But tell the people what they want to hear. Gus, I'm intrigued by your vision. I'll seriously consider your proposal. I appreciate you hearing me out, Mr. President. I genuinely believe this plan could work wonders for the rural folks. Our talk was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked out the nearest window. A sleek helicopter was cutting through the sky, sunlight glinting off its polished surface as it descended towards us. On it was our next appointment, Ewald Alfonso, the previous president of Swordland. Like Ronald Reagan, basically. If Ronald Reagan was rich and naturally rich, I guess, more corporate and not an actor. Alfonso sure knows how to make an entrance. The man loves his theatrics. Before we meet him, I want to bring up more pieces of assembly business. Brother. I get it. There's not many opportunities to speak with the president, so you got to take advantage of when they happen. But the problem with being the president is everyone is taking advantage of their 5 minutes with you. That's real. That's how politics is if you're a politician. Alfonso is a complete asshole, yes. The workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hardworking folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're still stuck in a recession? He's not wrong, but he's not right either. The way I see it, short-term wins might end up costing us big time in the long run. Guess I get what you're saying, but isn't it high time we put people before profits? I see where you're coming from, Mr. President. No, you don't. But a prosperous economy helps everyone. True. The workers included. Well, the certain types of prosperous economies help people. The workers included. If we're all sinking, nobody's winning. That is true. Please come this way. Ewald and I have some exciting news to share with you. I have faith that you won't leave us hanging. Yeah, let's dap him up here. After your convincing arguments about the railway project, I'm curious what else we can achieve. Ah, I'm flattered, Mr. President. I'm glad you made the right choice, of course. I admit I'm slightly frustrated that you contracted the SSC. They've been leeching off the Swedish people for far too long. The corruption in that organization is unfathomable. Makes the Lotterberg group looks like saints. I had to take the safe option this early in the term, Mr. Manger. Sure you understand. Understandable. We have to break the cycle at some point if we want to stick around. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the elevator. He pushed open a door. We walked down yet another hallway seemingly in the direction we'd just come from. Like a maze, isn't it? That's Canali architecture for you. Oh, it's foreign design. The hallways were lined with doors, glass panels in them revealing workers in suits and ties, many of foreign origin, busy in their pristine offices. That's a big deal in our country right now. It's the fact that almost all the Gasom employees are foreigners. Which, you know, in a high-tech industry like gas or oil, that's kind of how it is. You want like the best and brightest and most knowledgeable, but our nation kind of hasn't made an effort, I think, to probably educate and train our own oil and gas workers, right? Which is a problem. A stark contrast to the blue-collar workers outside working the machinery, transportation, and maintenance, who are, of course, swords. This whole operation feels very hands-on deck. I can tell an intricate operation when I see it. It took decades for Ewald and the workers, of course, to create an enterprise with such global competitive potential. Ah, here's the elevator. Ewald ought to be up there already. There's a separate entrance by the helipad. We stepped onto the elevator. Gus punched the code and we began our ascent. Let's do this. The doors opened. Here we are. Ewald, my friend. Ewald Alfonso stood up from his chair. He had on a perfectly tailored suit that he wore as casually as pajamas. Gus, you old devil. It takes one to know one. As promised, I brought our guest of honor. President Rain, I hope you enjoyed seeing our facilities here. President Alfonso, it's nice to see what you have built from the inside. That's nothing. Nothing compared to the Gasom HQ in Holsword, of course. Still, one of the standouts of the Maroon District. Please, have a seat. Let's talk. We sat down. Some snacks and drinks were served. Multiple Gasom yearly financial reports were scattered on the table between us. President Rain, I'm here because we have a great opportunity on our hands. A business arrangement that will benefit Gasom and Sordland alike. I also happen to believe that the current and former presidents of Sordland should stick together and share our experiences. Not everyone has been in our shoes, you know. Be fun to roleplay a Huey Long character? Yeah, it's true. Presidents sticking together. That's an interesting notion. Indeed, it is an interesting notion, President Rain. It's a shame that politics offers stand in the way. Could do a bit more of that, couldn't we? Former presidents, current presidents, all pulling for Sordland. I wonder what he means by that. I wonder. As we discuss the future of Sordland, it is paramount that I comprehend your vision. The trajectory you set us this country's on will inevitably impact not just Gasom, but all of Sordland's positions on the global stage. I confess, I've been following the news from the Maroon Palace closely since leaving office. Your decision to deviate from a market economy is, let's say, not what I would have chosen. And I'm puzzled that your administration has so far ignored the wealth of opportunities provided by the West. Meanwhile, I've not heard any indication of your leanings regarding the Kingdom of Ritzia's interest in investing in Gasom. Bro goes straight for the point, doesn't he? While the prospect of collaborating with a wealthy nation like Ritzia is not unappealing, I am suspicious of their underlying intentions. Your wariness is understandable, President Rain. The motivations of nations like Ritzia are not always clear-cut. Our utmost priority should be to ensure that any partnership we enter into is in the best interest of Sordland. Your concerns, Mr. President, remind me of a time when I was working in OMEC. OPEC, I think is what that is. OPEC/EU hybrid there. We were bringing in foreign investments to revitalize the local companies. There were protests, people were scared of change, but thought we were selling out. But we weathered the backlash and stood by our decisions. Years later, those same people saw the benefits, the jobs were created, and growth was spurred. Change is always met with resistance, but in the end, it's the results that matter. Change may be met with resistance, Gus, but it's our job to ensure that the people are with us in this journey. We can't just disregard their concerns. I completely agree, Mr. President. The people are our greatest asset. The people are our greatest asset. Well written. But remember, sometimes people don't know what from them until they see it. True. That's why we're here, to help them see a better future. As Gus finished his point, we suddenly heard the faint wailing of sirens in the distance. He waited for the noise to fade before continuing. Back to the topic at hand. It seems we're at a crossroad of Gasson. The numbers tell a tale of struggle and potential. No need to sugarcoat it, Gus. Gasson is teetering on the edge of a cliff. Without significant restructuring, the firm risks plunging into insurmountable debt. My old friend Ewald reached out to me for assistance. These fucking assholes. Out of respect for our shared history and my small stake in the company, I respect the honesty, Gus, I couldn't refuse. I've always believed in the power of networking. I'm sure you've heard of Rusty Montoro, chairman and CEO of the Ritzian Royal Gold. Rusty and I go way back, and he's done quite well for himself. Back under Alfonso's government, I was able to broker a deal with King Ramus Taurus, thanks to my connection with Rusty. It was a win for all involved. So I've heard, Gus. I understand the need for strategic alliances, but let's remember our own interests and values. Absolutely. We're in this for Sordland first and foremost. But remember, the world of international business, alliances are tools, not ties that bind us. True. Thanks to Gus's Ritzian connections, investors from the kingdom are now interested in Gasson. A development that could steer us clear of the looming crisis. We've got an amazing opportunity here. The demand for gas is steadily increasing from both international partners and the Swordfish state. All we have to do is ensure a consistent supply. The only way I'll agree to this is if we get some state control in Gasson, which I don't think there's an option for, sadly. The trouble is that right now, some of our fields are operating at only half of their capacity due to resource limitations. But we have a significant potential for expansion, including 2 new fields that haven't been tapped. I thought you guys were going bankrupt. Why are you getting more fields? With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction, effectively fulfill rising demand, and ensure long-term stability and profitability. But that requires us to be willing to take risks and weather the storm. Now, that's the legacy we're striving for, wouldn't you agree? That's a risk, Mr. Alfonso. What if the investment doesn't pay off as expected? Every investment involves risk, but this one is an easy bet. If anyone ever tells you it's an easy bet, you know for a fact that it's not. With proper investment and development, we project extremely high returns in the next 5 years alone. Invest now. 10x. Doge to the moon. The sounds of sirens briefly distracted us. Through the window, we saw police cars driving down the street adjacent to the Gasson zone. We redirected our attention to the... You all looked at me. I appreciate your visit today, and despite all our differences, your willingness to meet me is noted. Throughout my journey, I've held faith in collaborating with individuals who genuinely share my vision. The presence of the right allies amplifies our potential. Goddamn the writing of this game, man. Your attitude and choices as president has prompted me to reflect on the significant gap that exists between us. Regrettably, this divide could pose challenges to feasibility of prospective business collaboration. Bud, you're the one who wants something from me here. Let's not get this twisted. I understand, Mr. Alfonso. It's important that we each stay true to our principles. Indeed, Mr. President, our principles are what guides us. If they don't point us in the same direction, It's best we part ways here. I wish you all the best in your endeavors for Swordland. Wait, gentlemen, let's not get a single disagreement define our relationship. There's a bigger picture here. I understand that tensions are high right now. What did we say that even pissed them off? But I have faith that we can find a solution that benefits everyone. However, for that to happen, I need to know, Mr. President, do you trust my judgment? I trust your advice. You've proven yourself a reliable ally and I believe we can find a way forward. Trust and judgment and advice are two different things. Thank you, Mr. President. I propose a compromise. If you propose not to tighten the current restrictions of the Energy Protection Act, we can reconsider our stance and keep the deal on the table. No. You need something from me. I'm not going to give you something to have the chance to help you. Fuck off. No. That's not how we negotiate. Mr. President, I'm giving you a chance to prove your commitment to the people of Swordland and to shared future. I wish there was an option to say, no. If you want to get a deal out of us, you need to offer something instead. He's acting like he is negotiating from a place that we need something from him. We don't. I hope you'll consider our offer carefully. This could be the beginning of a fruitful partnership or the end of a potential alliance. He's suggesting that the alliance with him is worthwhile. It's not. He'll take more than he would ever give. They always do. As a future gesture of goodwill, would you consider making a personal donation to the Alfonso Foundation? It's a cause close to my heart, focusing on providing shelter for the homeless in Swordland. Fucking gross, man. Gentlemen, after careful consideration, I've decided to step away from this deal. I understand, Mr. President. It's unfortunate we couldn't bridge our differences. Nonetheless, we respect your stance and value the time spent. No, you don't. I'll leverage my literacy and context to finalize the deal. Our allies in the Golden Kingdom have stepped in where Swordland couldn't. Sure, as long as it is legally in line with the Energy Protection Act. Do whatever you want. Before we conclude, Ewald, I've set aside time during this meeting for President Rain to discuss concerns of Gaslam's treatment of workers and repercussions on Narble. The Labor Union and the Communist Party of Swordland have garnered significant support, capitalizing on anxieties of many Gaslam workers concerned about their job security. Alfonso nodded and looked at me. Gaslam stands as a global energy powerhouse. It's only right they give back somewhat. Let's mull it over. You have a proposal in mind, Mr. President. The wages of Gaslam blue-collar workers need to be increased. They are the backbone of your operations. Mr. President, while I understand your concerns, we must consider the financial implications of such actions. I cannot really promise you anything. We must indeed be mindful of the economic realities. We are striving to make decisions that are financially sound and sustainable. Both of you make good points. It's a fine line between fulfilling our responsibilities and ensuring economic stability. Indeed, Gus, we have to ensure that we don't jeopardize the economic stability of Swordland, but we also can't ignore the plight of Narble. As I mentioned before, we're already considering how we can... Suddenly the meeting was interrupted. Far murmur of a conversation from outside the room grew louder, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A member of the private security team entered the room, his face taut with urgency. He approached Alfonso and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Ewald nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting mine with a serious intensity. Gentlemen, it seems we have an unexpected situation outside. Some protesters from the labor union have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katarina Horton and Dennis Stowler seem to have been leading the group. It would be difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble. Well, that's a pickle. What's our move, Ewald? I have a helicopter ready. We can leave undetected and avoid chaos and potential danger. I think we should face the crowd head on. That is your prerogative, Mr. President. Following the violent events of late, I heavily recommend against facing any crowd. Mr. President, I advise you leave via helicopter just in case. I could stand back and upgrade the crowd on discussions today. Serge Volkner walked in, the boy. Mr. President, I have discussed the situation with Presidential Guard and the police security. They're advising us not to go out the way we came. More police are on the way. You must make a decision, Mr. President. We ain't no bitch. We ain't no bitch. Address the protesters. Listen about how we compromise. You give me everything I want and I give you some money as well. Literally, yeah, fuck that dude. You got the shitty Alfonso deal. You really have to kiss his ass to get the good deal, since Alfonso is being an ass. Lowers the EPA to 10% to piss him off. Yep, that sounds about right. Fuck that dude. As we stepped out of the towering front gate of the Gaston facility, I immediately became aware of how tense the situation was. Gus Manger stood to my right, his silhouette barely distinguishable from the monolithic edifice behind us. Serge stood at my left, his eyes scanning the crowd with the precision of a hawk. The Gaston security had drawn their weapons in anticipation of forming a bristling wall around the perimeter. My presidential guard in stark contrast stood tall and unflinching at the entrance, shielding us from the sea of angry workers surrounding us. The shouts of the crowd were deafening, the hostility palpable. Stoll and Horton stood at the front line with fire in their eyes. With a deep breath, I prepared to address them. Gus extended a megaphone towards me. Fuck yeah. We gotta take off our jacket, you know? Suspenders and the white shirt. Get that megaphone out. Today, my team and I are here to listen and engage. We're here to ensure Gaston becomes a beacon of growth, fairness, and prosperity for all its workers. Let's turn this impasse into an opportunity, a chance for real, impactful change. We are here to make that happen. Empty words, Rain. You showed us nothing concrete today. We're fed up with your hollow rhetoric. All action, all talk and no action, isn't it, Mr. President? How long must the workers wait for real change? Now hold on a moment. President Rain is committed to bringing about real change. His actions and decisions demonstrate this clearly, even if it doesn't fit your narrative. Is this so, Mr. Manger? All we've seen are decisions that favor the likes of you and Ewald Alfonso, not the common workers. It's not about narratives, Mr. Manger. It's about ensuring a fair, dignified life for the working class, something your policies have consistently failed to do. You're an academic and a lawyer, Mr. Stoller. What do you really know about the struggles of the working class? I know that they deserve better than a president who puts corporate interests before human beings. Attacking Mr. Stoller's personal background accomplishes nothing, Mr. President. What do you have to say to the workers of this nation? It's clear from your lack of commitment to education that you don't fully comprehend the scope of the challenges faced by our working families. Your neglect of our nation's healthcare system will harm millions. Mr. President, we demand that you support the upcoming workers' rights bill. The labor force of Swordland will be watching your next move closely. Furthermore, we want reform. Reduce the election threshold and change the Constitution to make a more democratic and fairer nation. I understand the concerns and frustrations many of you have. Rest assured, we are here, we are listening, we are committing to addressing these issues. None of those options were really good. Yeah, there we go. Quiet murmurs of discontent began to ripple through the crowd. The workers' faces seemed to turn even stonier. I could feel the tension growing. The presence of our guards did little to reassure me. Suddenly, a reporter pushed through the crowd, brandishing a microphone towards me. The locals of Narbel have suffered under the impact of Gaston for years. What concrete steps is Gaston going to make towards the benefit of the local community? Fucking hell. I wish we could just out like fucking Alfonso and be like, yeah, he shut down any possibility for negotiation, and he wouldn't listen to us. We should be able to say that, but we can't. This is when we should be able to throw Alfonso under the bus. The option that's remotely viable. I must admit, we haven't been able to make as much progress with Gaston as we had hoped, but I remain committed to finding a solution. The journey may be challenging, but I remain dedicated. Our workers deserve better, and I won't rest until we achieve that. At least you're not hiding your lack of progress anymore. Mere determination won't solve the workers' problem. We need results. Until we get them, we will continue to fight. Yep. The crowd roared back to Rife. I could practically feel the raw anger emanating from them. My guards took a step forward. Time's a luxury we don't have, Mr. President. Each passing day is another day our workers suffer under the heel of inequality. This right here is so well written. It's so reflective of like leftism as an ideology. There's no solidarity. Every little leftist group is full of power-hungry leaders, people who don't like want one specific form of like reform, and then they bicker and fight, and there's no solidarity and cooperation. It's so reflective of what leftism is like in the world. I'm not even talking about radical leftism either. I mean even like the mild forms of it. The undercurrent of unrest swelled, threatening to surge into a full-blown tempest. The previous calm seemed like a distant memory, an illusion shattered by the harsh reality of discontent. Yet none of our dialogue options were good, so I wonder if there's a way to not have this happen. I've always had the crowd go crazy on me. A group of figures emerged from the crowd, adorned unmistakably in scarlet attire. The Red Youth had arrived. The sight of them triggered nostalgia, memories of days filled with protests and camaraderie during our time at university. I realized this was no longer a mere protest. It was a symbol of a broader, more potent struggle. The police began reorganizing their ranks, adopting a defensive postures. Could you shed some light on the possible deal between the Swordist government and Gaston? What role does the Kingdom of Ritzia play in the arrangement? These options suck so much, dude. Our government has chosen not to invest at this time. We believe Ritzia is capable of handling the investment, giving us the opportunity to focus on research and other pressing issues. These options suck so bad, dude. I think it's the game just trying to make you get like into a bad situation. So you're putting the fate of the workers in the King of Ritzia's hand. That's a dangerous game you're playing, Mr. President. Relinquishing control of the monarchy, you are aware of Ritzia's history of stamping out disagreements with brute force. These are such dumb responses, man. Close by, I noticed a terse exchange between a security officer from Gaslam and a member of the Presidential Guard. Serge craned his neck, his face deep in concentration as he listened to their whispers. Mr. President, the situation is growing increasingly volatile. I recommend that we expedite your departure. We must prioritize your safety. Are you sure? Running away only make this protest angrier? Purser is right, Mr. President. The crowd won't get any calmer if you stick around. You've got to get to safety. Normally, I'd not make us do that, but since we're getting just absolute shitter options here. There is, in my Reformer run, I've done it. I struck a deal with Alfonso by raising the EPA to 45% and going in on it with Ritzia in exchange for him increasing working and living conditions I see. We have to sell our country just to make the leftists, like, get their little token reform. Gross, man. You can't even face your own people, can you, Mr. President? Shut up. God, I hate these sorts of leftists, man. They're real, too. You claim to advocate for the workers, yet undermine our efforts to better their conditions. Should you be supporting the initiatives we fought for instead of spreading discontent? Fucking true. One final question. What is your true relationship with Iwa? Out of nowhere, a man lunged towards me from the crowd. Before I could react, Serge sprang in front of me. He swiftly tackled the man to the ground and pinned his hands behind his back. Give him hell, Serge. Serge left my dazed attacker on the ground and turned to the guards with a look of authority I'd never seen before. So based. Protect the president! His voice carried over the screams of the crowd, the guards tightening their circle around me, hurriedly pushing me towards the safety of the convoy. Everyone remain calm. Police and security forces rushed into the melee, swinging batons and indiscriminate ferocity. The Red Youth rushed at them head on. Into the car, Mr. President, we're leaving now. Katerina and Dennis raised their hands in a plea for calm, their words nearly lost amongst their turmoil. Fucking bitches. Stop the cops. This isn't going to help. Back off, you're only making things worse. The staff and I were swiftly escorted into the convoy. The protesters and police scattered as our vehicles plowed through the crowd. Their screams receded into the background as we left the chaotic scene behind. That went well. That went well. That went really well. British Freedom Front under new leadership of Evelyn Arge. Uh-oh. That went really well. I'm back for the store. What's going on? We're debating leftists, and then they charged us. When I went out to the crowd, I picked some specific dialogue options and they gave me a standing ovation as I drove off. That's so funny that you have to sell out the country just to like give that token shit, man. Civilian Order of 1954. An investigation on the influence of the Young Swords and Red Youth organizations on the ticket to follow Idris here. Organization that passed assassination and arrest has concluded. Both organizations haven't officially organized or called for illegal actions, but several low to mid-level leaders from both have links to inciting actions that led to deaths, injuries, and instability. Full time, ladies and gentlemen. A note, if you ban both or one does the opposite, it increases unrest. Yeah, so this will make things more unrestful if we start banning people, folks. But I will give you guys the option. You guys can vote on it. And swords. Guard. Both. The thing is, you can actually have a good outcome with these protests. If you invest in Gassum without risk, he has 2 government budget, I think. You have good relation with Alfonso in the prologue. He will give workers better conditions. I see. Okay. Yeah, we don't have good relations with Alfonso from the prologue, though, because we joined the Red Guard, economics professor, and we did some things he didn't like, so... it's good to know that there are better options to the dialogue, but... yeah, that's a shame. Oh well. The Red Guard are basically communists. Do nothing. Alrighty. The wise decision. I am loving these explosions in the sky, Mogwai sounding music we have going. In what music? Open. Alrighty. I'll let you guys vote on this one too. The Green Regeneration Ecological Economic Nurturing. The green has been proposed by the Assembly, aiming to encourage a more sustainable approach to industry in Gruni. That's like our agricultural region in the southeast. It also borders on Ritzia. No, not Ritzia, I apologize. Lesbia. Section 1 of this act would impose stricter regulations on industrial pollution and waste disposal, particularly in the Gruni region, that would hurt our industry. Businesses not complying with these new standards would face hefty fines, the revenue from which would be invested back in environmental recovery projects. Sounds nice, will hurt the economy. Section 2 proposes to offer tax breaks to businesses that can demonstrate a significant reduction in their environmental impact over a period of time. A small investment fund is created for eco-friendly business practices. That's actually reasonable. Section 2 is reasonable. Section 1 will hurt our economy. But I am going to let you guys decide. So, poll time again. What ideology are you trying to achieve with your presidency? We're doing authoritarian leftist is what we're doing. Or is it just doing whatever's based on the country no matter what? We're like, it's a little bit of light role play. So we have like some ideology for Rain, who's like kind of like a leftist who thinks that authoritarian like Leninism, vanguardism is necessary to establish like proper economic working conditions. So we're gonna try and secure like a lot of authoritarian power, but we're like, you know, fairly good natured. We're not corrupt. We're very pragmatic though. We're willing to do what is necessary. So we're gonna kind of play it with his ideology. When I make decisions, I'll be doing that. And then I'm gonna do polls for folks watching too. So it's a bit of a mix in terms of kind of how the route we're gonna go. I'm not just gonna do all the meta decisions to get like a perfect ending. We're almost certainly not gonna get a perfect ending. So yeah. That's a close vote right there. Deny. Good. We're gonna veto it. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, we cannot afford to be doing it right now. All right. I changed the music for this. This song doesn't really fit what we're doing. I love the Ritzia soundtrack. I was walking to my office since today was the day to edit and make the final changes for the proposal to change the Constitution of Swordland. The Reform Committee finally bore tangible results that drafted the changes were about to be presented. I walked in the marble corridors of the palace thinking about the massive steps we were about to take. My secretary Olivia greeted me at the entrance to my office. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Olivia. How are you today, sir? I'm perfectly fine. Good to hear. She paused before taking my coat. It looked like she had something on her mind. Mr. Rain, can you give me a hint about your reform plans? If you ask me, taking away the judge's immunity is long overdue, but it might anger a lot of people in these halls. Nothing's been decided yet. I hope you'll keep me informed. I'll take your coat now. Olivia left. To hang up my coat, I entered my office and sat down. Not long after, Peter and Lucian arrived. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Time to finally get this proposal going. Peter placed a draft in front of me. After your modifications, we'll be starting the process, sir. Let's start. After placing the committee's report and my own notes in front of me, I buried myself in the papers. Shut up, cheese. No spoilers. According to Article 77 and 82, the president may veto a bill by returning it to assembly with a written statement. All right, I'm gonna let you guys. I'm gonna do polls for all of these. You guys, everyone watching, I think who votes knows like the ideology and what's going on in the plan and stuff. So y'all have been voting way better than in the past. So I'm gonna start giving you guys more votes and stuff like this. So change. Limit veto. Pocket veto. Loophole. Pulls up. No spoilers about Libya, guys. We'll get there in the end. Pocket veto loophole it is. So how many playthroughs have you done in this game? Me personally, 2 I've completed, and then 1 I've started not completed. And I've completed 1 full Ritzia playthrough, which ended really, really sad. I went with dommy mommy military wife, and then I got cooed by her family when I refused to make my son the heir and demanded that stayed with my daughter being the heir. It was sad. My Praetorian Guard didn't save me, unfortunately. All right, limit but establish a point. Only one option here. Constitutional amendment process. According to the Article 5 of the Constitution, an amendment has been supported by at least 150 signatures may be proposed to the Grand National Assembly. A 2/3 majority in the National Assembly, a simple majority vote in the Supreme Court is required for an amendment. As a consequence, the Supreme Court, which is not part of the elected legislature, has voting rights and given enormous powers in the amendment process. Only one option. Yeah, it definitely can. That was rough. I loved that playthrough of Itzia until the end, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? That was a rough way to go out, man. According to Article 17, the President of Swordland is not responsible for the actions performed in the exercise. Oh, God. For the Americans watching, I think you'll understand the danger of something like this. Except in the case of high treason or violation of the Constitution. In such cases, the President may be impeached by the Supreme Court in joint session with an absolute majority of the members. Therefore, the impeachment process only includes the Supreme Court, and it gives them great power over the executive. Well, since we are the president, it can't hurt us, can it? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Not our problem when we're gone, you know? I don't mind if, like, the votes result in us, like, not getting what we want and failing at things. I really don't mind. We don't need a happy ending in games like this. We just need an interesting story. That tea is a lifesaver. I bought this really good tea when I had like mono really bad that like helps your throat and stuff. And I think I'm gonna keep getting it because it actually makes my like throat like way easier when I'm streaming. Because after I stream for like when I do long streams for like 6 to 8 hours, my voice is so fucking tired after. And if I'm like hanging out with people or doing something, it's always a little rough. But this tea has really helped, actually. No impeachment. Okay. According to the Constitution, the President appoints ministers and the Council of Ministers from elected ministers of the Assembly. We may introduce a confidence vote by adding the line, the President may nominate ministers, which will require a confidence vote from the Grand National Assembly for their appointment. So it's like appointed cabinet, but they're in the Assembly. Or include the Assembly more in the process with the Grand National Assembly may nominate a list of ministers which the President may appoint. We're going to have to make some concessions somewhere? Yes, we are. The Assembly will surely understand we're doing this for the good of the country. Oh yeah. Elected officials are very understanding and definitely have the best interests of the country in mind. Always. No change winning. Confidence vote with 2. Assembly nominations with 1. Confidence vote and no change tied 3-3. Uh-oh. Confidence vote winning 4-3. 4-2 and 3. Tight compared to the others. It'll be close. Like 2 seconds left. Confidence vote it is. Confidence vote is required. So we can nominate basically ministers, but they need a confidence vote from the assembly. Electoral threshold. According to Article 50, a political party needs a minimum of 10% of the total national vote to win seats in the assembly, the Grand National Assembly. So small parties basically don't get elected. The votes of the parties who pass the threshold are redistributed proportionally, meaning USP, which currently holds the lead, would be the main beneficiary. Decreasing the threshold may allow the Workers' Party Blue D and the Communist Party of Swordsland to be elected in the next elections. Increasing the threshold, however, may put the National Party Front below the threshold. We need the NFP. But our party would get more assembly members. But it also would allow more extreme parties to get into government. So this is a rough one. Already? Now we're right, all on the right of mind, right? All right. Oh, 15% threshold at 4, 8% threshold at 1 vote. 15% threshold is overwhelming. Well, we need the NFP for the bill to pass, and they won't support lowering the threshold. Yeah. Yup. Oh boy, this is gonna fuck us a little bit here. This is gonna really fuck us. This is the way chat votes that I know and love right here. It's good to have you all back. This is some grand campaign voting right here. Alrighty, 15%. I love democracy. According to Article 18 and 51, the president is able to issue decrees on political, social, and economic issues that would carry the force of law. They would not contradict the Constitution and are subject to judicial review. Therefore, the president may issue decrees on many subjects without going through the Grand National Assembly. However, the Assembly may pass legislation on some subjects to override presidential decrees. We may include in the Assembly the process requiring an enabling act of the Assembly to be able to enact decrees, or we may strengthen them to make them a priority over statute law and not subject to judicial review. Jesus. That's what we want, actually. Establish presidential decrees. All right. According to the Constitution, the president shall be elected to serve for 4 years. However, there's no mention of a term limit, allowing one individual to be able to run, be unelected, and serve as president without limits. Okay. Pulls up. We can change things later to get people to vote for it, so it's not over yet. Yeah. So we can make concessions later and go against some of this stuff to get people on our side, which we'll have to do. No, we have no choice. If we want something to pass, of course. If we don't care and don't want things to pass or are stubborn assholes, then that's. The Assembly and the good of Swordland are strangers. That's some traitorous words you're saying. About to have some fucking swordish political violence in the chat here, Jesus. What are we doing? Don't change. No term limits. Alrighty. We are gonna have to probably do this though later to get concessions. The Constitution gives the justices of the Supreme Court absolute immunity before the law and describes no procedure of impeachment, making them untouchable by the other branches of government. We may describe an impeachment procedure by giving the Grand National Assembly the right to propose an impeachment of a justice on the legal grounds of unconstitutional behavior, or we may give the president complete over the court by giving him the right to replace justices. Yes, please. Article 99 of the Constitution defines the Member of Honor title and the rights their members may exercise. A Member of Honor has absolute immunity and is considered to be a permanent member of the Grand National Assembly. They are given control of their own personal security team provided by the state's presidential guards. A member is also able to live in a special private residence provided by the state for free. Jesus. That's not corrupt at all. My Reddit NFP flare makes me want to respond violently to that. Fuck. Alright. Abolish. Pulls up. I think gets it after as well. Interesting. You guys know that means that Tarquin Sul will be able to like vote in the assembly, right? And Alfonso will be able to vote in the assembly. Two of our favorite people. Abolish at 2. President gets it after at 4. Removing immunity tied at 4. Don't change its 3. What could go wrong with Alfonso and Tarquin Sul being able to speak and vote in the legislature? Absolutely. If it's a tie, I'll break the tie. Remove immunity got to 5. All right, remove immunity. Remove the immunity of the Member of Honor. Alrighty. After the final changes to the proposal were made, I showed it to the team. After looking at the changes, the team began discussing it amongst themselves. Lucian spoke afterwards. Looks like the amendments are ready to be proposed. But sir, I understand that you're trying to get rid of the impeachment. However, I have to say that it may create problems within the party. We have to make sure they get behind us. We do not want to lose the support of the USP. We'll handle the party. We will all be doing our parts, sir. Any other comments before we proceed? I'm good. Let's proceed. Lucian looked at me. We will be working on the wording of the proposal with our legal experts before we propose it. In the meantime, we must introduce this proposal to our party, sir. You'll need to give a strong speech to get them behind you, but I advise you to first talk to the leaders of both conservative and reformist wings of the party. As far as I'm aware, Mr. Clavin will be our biggest problem. He may try to paint you as a dictator. Mrs. Tory will also be tough, but we'll need to get to her first. Yeah, she's the one we need to get on her side. We'll basically give her whatever she wants. She's as they say, a girl boss, so we can work with her. Clavin's a little bitch who we'll have to deal with. Any advice on dealing with him? Mr. Victorin and Mrs. Tory will probably be easier to persuade. We need to unite the party under these changes, so her support is vital. I shouldn't have to persuade Victorin of anything. He better be fucking loyal. Or we can blackmail him too. Mr. Cloud will be tougher to break. The problem is that he can also influence the moderates against us. That is the danger. As much as I don't want to say this, if they make any demands to change the proposal, you may need to give it. Understood. Wish you the best of luck in the party, sir. I think we can end the meeting here. We all shook hands, and they left the room. Yeah, Clavin, there's ways to deal with Clavin. We have ways to deal with Clavin. All right, I'm at 3 hours. I think I'm gonna stop the Suzerain stream for the day here. I'm gonna go have like a little 15-minute break. I'm gonna stop the stream. Probably, I'm gonna make some like lunch and stuff and some dinner, I guess. Make a little bit of food. So I'll probably be back in around 20 minutes. I'm gonna stream Minecraft for like another couple hours after this. So we got a pretty good ways today. I'm gonna keep streaming more Suzerain tomorrow. We'll do another stream of this, and we'll get through a good portion of that tomorrow as well. So yeah, I'll be back in a little bit. If you want to keep watching some more of our Minecraft game, I'm gonna do some more like stuff with some of the more fun mods today, finish the village and stuff. I'll be back in like probably 20 minutes. If not, I will be back with Suzerain tomorrow, and I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday and a good weekend. So I will catch you all soon or later. Have a good one, everybody.